Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good night. My name is Blind, and I want to thank you so much for tuning into the first episode of the Playerdiff podcast. Today, I'm joined by my co host, Lucinder, and our guest is a very good friend of mine, someone I've met quite recently, but we've had a lot of great talks, and we're actually teaming up to do this amazing project. My guest is no other than Nyar, owner of the TFT Discord server. Um, in this episode, it's kind of a long one. Honestly, it's our first, and there's a good bit of hiccups in this, but I'm actually really happy about the conversation we had. We talk about what it's like being a TFT Discord owner, what it's like learning the game and things new players can do, and it's what we talk about. The TFT community, the competitive scene right now, and how far we've come from what TFT used to be. It's a long one, so if by any chance you make it to the full recording, I'm so incredibly grateful. Please let us know what you think. Either you know where to find us. Uh, you can send us a DM. You can leave comments, all that good stuff. But without further ado, here's the episode, and I hope you have a great time. Sick. All right, let's get to it. All right. My intro was fucked up. We should just take the intro from the old one. That was fucking great. I was doing the intro, and then I was like, "Can you hear me typing?" That's funny.
Oh my god, I'm sorry.
No, it's good. It was actually funny. It was really good. All
Okay,
right,
okay.
so
Remember that.
so we are in it. Welcome to the first episode of Playerdiff.gg, where we talk TFT mentality and pretty much everything in between, whatever we feel like. This should be the fuckface podcast version too. So today I have my very good friend. It's actually Lucinder. Our first negative episode was literally like 10 minutes of talking about how to pronounce Lucinder's name.
Wait, it's pronounced Lucinder?
Yeah, it's pronounced Lucinder.
I don't know. Like people just call me Lux. I just ignored it. It's like fuck it, just call me Lux. Call me whatever you want. I don't really care, right? But that's not like how you actually pronounce my name.
Is it a reference to something?
It's Chinese.
Is it your name?
It's not my name, but it's very, very close.
Okay, you just picked a Chinese name that was close to your name so everyone could mispronounce it.
Funny enough, funny enough, Lux and I have the same last name, but mine is spelled differently because of cultural inaccuracy. Because I'm actually like Hakka, which is like an Indo-Chinese mix. So within the translation, they add an E, but it's actually like pronounced the same as Lux's, which is pretty interesting. But anyways, welcome to the first episode with the Player.gg staff. Nyar, thanks for being here. Luxinder, Lucinder, thank you for waking up and being here. I know it's 9 a.m. in Australia, in Disneyland. So Nyar, huh? What was that?
Disneyland.
Disneyland down under. Nyar, thanks so much for being here. I guess like really this is the first episode, and this is really where we should probably talk about like the initiative that we partnered up to do. So yeah, I want to tell us a little bit about our joint partnership with the TFT Discord.
Sure. I mean, it makes sense. There was a podcast a long time ago that existed for TFT, but it's since died out. Never reached out to us, or I'm not even sure if they were members of our Discord, but it kind of makes sense to me as a community that it's something the community can engage in, whether it's talking about episodes, talking about who they want to see on it. Like there isn't really a Q&A forum that exists for TFT outside of, you can hop in someone's chat and spend some points or money, like channel points, to try to get them to read your message, and maybe you'll get an answer. But it doesn't, you can't really go in depth with something like that. Like you can't pop in Mort Dog's chat, write an essay, and be like, I hope he answers that thoughtfully, because he's going to look at it and be like, and like just super TLDR it. But yeah, so kind of letting you guys use the Discord, or us use the Discord as a launching point for the podcast. And then kind of hoping to grow the community.
Amazing. Yeah, for sure. As within the first month that I started playing TFT, I tried to learn almost everything I possibly could. And I was like on YouTube watching pretty much everyone's videos. And I really found that there was two types of podcasts for TFT. Well, probably we'll call it three, right? There's one that's like purely just about TFT, like what do you think of the new set, which I think is fine, but it becomes like a little dated. Like you can't really watch it like 2 weeks later and actually have relevancy into how you play your game. And then the second is like just an interview format, which I think is great. It gives you exposure towards the whole community, but it doesn't provide enough room to actually go in depth or go on tangents and talk more in depth about things that actually matter, which frankly I'm more interested in like the mentality of gaming. Like tilt and TFT, I think is such a big topic. And as I'm talking with the people who are coming on next on the guest list, we're finding that like tilt and mentality and how do you learn, these are all things that are reoccurring and everybody has their own different take. So I'm really excited to be starting this project and really just talking with as many people as I can, whether they're in the top of the player base, like we're talking challengers, or even just like behind the scenes in terms of like tournament organizers. You're a more interesting figure because you are actually the owner of the official TFT Discord. I'm curious to like what the story of that was. How did you even get to this point?
So it starts with I don't even know where I first heard of TFT. I think it was originally like the press release stuff, that like the original videos, and they're just like they're coming out with a new mode, and I was kind of immediately interested, just in the sense of my skill. I'm getting older, and my skills at League of Legends have been failing me over the years.
I feel that. I feel that a lot.
Let's go.
um, but then in the end, I found the TFT Reddit, which was decent, but it's not that great in the sense of, well, I just don't like Reddit in the sense of it's mainly memes. And then I found they had a Discord. I joined that, put in way too many messages to the point I was the number one user by, I think, a mile. And that's actually where a lot of our staff came from too, like Richie, Squirrel Joe, stuff like that.
A lot of our
And
stuff. This survivors of Reddit, fucking people.
exactly. Ended up posting there a lot. Got offered a mod position there. Took it. Then this Discord, which was originally not the competitive TFT Discord, but a Discord that was based around tournaments and prizing. This one got launched, absorbed by Riot, or like Riot kind of merged with them because they were looking to get into the Discord game, and they essentially just looked through the TFT Discords, and I can't say this for certain, but I'm pretty sure they saw a competitive one, a tournament one, and a Reddit one, and said, "Yeah, we're avoiding the competitive and the Reddit ones, thanks." So they went with this one. Our Discord kind of realized that their growth was becoming exponential, so we decided to actually shut down, to the point of like we directed all traffic to this one, the new Riot one. Got staff ourselves because of the merger, and then from there I went from mod to head mod, eventually to admin, and then when Riot pulled out, I became the owner.
Crazy. So that's been
You told me it was kind of different. You just told me you bullied everybody out and then became head.
Well, yeah, that's how I did it. I definitely bullied my way in there, in the sense of like once I got access to the moderator chat, I kind of scrolled up and I figured out that Reptil had been lead mod before he became admin. So I reached out to the admins and I was like, "You don't have a lead mod. I want to be lead mod." And they were like, "Oh, okay, sure." They're like, "Yeah, you post the most of the mods. You're the lead mod now." And I was like, "Cool." And then I just kind of kept going from there, of just like, I'm gonna do more and more until like, at the time when Floki left, because he moved on to run the Valorant Discord. He just decided, he's like, it doesn't make sense to make anyone admin except Nyar. So I kind of took over.
Oh no, testing.
Sometimes that's just how you have to do it, right? Like it's very similar to almost any game. Any advantage that you can get, you have to grab aggressively, right? So
I was min-maxing the Discord, yes.
Exactly, min-maxing the Discord. I love it. So what I'm curious about is like, what drove you to put in so much work for a game that you just randomly found, right? I mean, you have to be. There's definitely some character traits that you need to have that are unique to want to lead a whole community. what really does it for you? Like what drives you to do that?
I mean, the start was that I was obsessed with TFT. Like, I not only had, as I said, the most messages in that Discord. I think I had anywhere between 80 and 120K. But like LOL chess doesn't even begin to show my obsession with TFT, because before it launched as a ranked mode, like in season one, I think I had close to 700 games played ranked. And before that, there was the alpha and the beta where I think I doubled that. So like, I want to say in the first 3 to 5 months of TFT, I probably played 2,000 games, and it was essentially all I did.
Jesus
Um,
Christ.
so when I wasn't playing TFT, I was talking about TFT, and then like from there, the ability to kind of grow and foster that community, so everyone else has a place to go and talk about TFT, even if it's less than I was. It just felt like something I wanted to work on, and while it's obviously work, it's not something that takes away from what I usually want to do on a day-to-day basis. So it's just a great fun project.
It's a
Sure.
career.
Yeah, I totally feel that. I think Nar, you and I have talked before about like making a career pivot into gaming, right? And I feel like TFT is definitely an interesting catalyst for that. Really, I mean, it's such a young game. I think it's only been out for what, 2 years now.
Yeah, we're coming up on 2 years. I wouldn't even say it's a young game. I'd say it's a young genre. Like it's such
It is a
a
very young genre for
like
sure.
the first. I assume the first one was Dota.
Yeah, I always go to auto chest.
Yeah, which came out. Oh, 2 years ago.
No, a little bit over 2 years ago. Just a little bit over.
Because Dota Auto Chess, I guess before it got called Underlords, the official release date was January 2019. So it probably obviously had a beta before that, but yeah, it looks
Right.
like I didn't expect Dota Auto Chess to have officially released in the same year as TFT. I thought it came way before,
No,
but
no. So Dota Auto Chess was actually a mod, right? Then it became
oh, okay,
yeah.
okay. So it's kind of like how Dota was a mod of
Yes.
in Warcraft 3 back in the day.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
that
what
makes more
Dota
sense.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really interesting move by Riot. The since they made their own game off of the original Dota mod, they're like, oh hey, look, another mod. Let's just do that. So like fabulous move, I think. But yeah, you're
Oh,
absolutely
absolutely.
right. Like this is definitely a young genre. But I'm curious, like what is it about TFT and for the sake of like auto chess genres, like what is it about this game that just really caught your eye and made you that obsessed? We've talked a bit about like how you have a super impressive wall of board games. So I'm imagining like you've probably played a bunch of games in your life. So what is it like that this game does it for you?
I think TFT is just the ultimate kind of push your luck game. Like there's several schools of thought as to how to play the game in general. Like some people, I can't say this set yet because it's so new, but people like Bulls especially or Chaos would give you advice of like, oh, if you're winning or if you're losing, you should either be econing or pushing levels type stuff. My strategy in TFT and the reason I love the game is it's always just push levels. Push levels because the moment you unlock that 2% chance for a forecast, I get to have that little injection of gambling every time my shop rerolls of just maybe the Jax is in my next shop, maybe the Draven is in my next shop. And it's such a great like RNG like mitigation and playing around like it feels great to hit, and losing to me at least in TFT doesn't feel too bad. There's been metas where it felt really bad to lose, but I think as a whole the genre is very much like it's like playing in a casino. The moment you finish a game, you're like, okay, next one, like let's keep this going.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this guy
it's
is gambling for sure. this man's a
no, for
gambler.
sure. Yeah, I mean it's definitely like soft casino simulator for sure, right? Like it's there's a huge aspect of gambling to this game, which I think is immensely fun, but also can be immensely frustrating to newer players. Um, and that's like one of the things that I'm really excited about hearing from a lot of people. You mentioned Bulls, who we're actually looking for a date for him. I think we're recording his next episode. Sorry, I think we're recording his episode on. Let me see here.
Sometimes next week. Next one's
On
Luna.
Sunday, actually. Yeah, so we're having Bulls on, and I'm talking to you, Chaos, right now. But I find like that play around the luck factor, like the RNG, is like the ultimate test. I think because for me, like when I look at auto chess, it's really like the birth child of like chess and poker, right? It's really this merge of how well can you play around this RNG, and I think what you find is like the best players completely uh, ignore the RNG and they focus on all the things that they can control, like scouting, pivoting, positioning, and Lux, you probably could talk about this a little bit way more than me in terms of like how to actually play around this RNG.
Oh, for sure. I can spend days fucking talking about this shit, bro. I like yesterday I was coaching a guy. He had a very, very strong opener, right? So he had Katarina with a blue buff opener with Kha'Zix, Gragas, and Warwick, right? And literally just I just made this guy fast night. He was like 100 HP 4-1. He leveled 8 at 4-2, right? And then this like normally people would just roll down there, right? Like normally people would just roll down. But he natural 2 karmas like in the next 2 rounds. I was like, there's no reason to roll down. We should just push levels. And then he just won. Like he had no items on karma. Like he has just had a blue buff. There's no damage item until like 5-3 when he got a cursed JG and he slammed IE on her, right? That's the damage item after that. And then he kind of just fast 9 and won the game. Like when you're strong and you have shit items, you just have to push levels. You have to compensate, right? With bad items, with good units. And that's it.
Sorry,
Right.
you're rationalizing it in the same way I do
Yeah.
every game, where it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I have bad items, I need to slam levels. Oh, I have good items and I'm win streaking, I need to slam
Yeah.
levels. It's just no matter
Yeah.
what, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I need to slam levels here. There's no other play.
But you know what's funny? And I remember when like beginning of set 4, I was also the one that's like push level 9, push level 9. And then that's how you ran it down to an 8 because I asked you to push
True.
level 9.
The funny thing is, I actually still stand by that. In that, I was doing some revisiting of this set. I went through my lol chest of all my games, and every game where I've pushed 9, barring 2 of them, I think I have actually done much worse. And it's to the point that the last few times I've gone 9, I've kind of looked, and I don't think it's good enough anymore, depending on the meta, to roll down at 9. I actually do want to do it at 8.
100%. 100%. Like
okay,
this,
because the last time I went 9, I scouted. I did my roll down and then I scouted, and I was like, the only thing I needed for this comp was 1 Ivern, and I didn't want to be that guy who goes to the Discord and says rolled 60 gold, no Ivern, GG Riot. And I scouted and I was like, I looked and I was like, oh, the reason I didn't hit Ivern is there's 1 in the whole pool. There was 1 guy with 7 of them, and I'm just like that.
Oh.
Yeah, when one guy's holding 7, you're like, you know what? He got those while I was going 9. And that lost me that game. So it's like there's such a gambler's fallacy of like, even it's just you want to roll down to hit, you don't want to roll down. It's also, just to touch on before we get too far away from it, I'm really interested in your episode with Chaos, because he's one of the people who has more Discord messages in our server than me, because I've never heard his voice. He didn't have a microphone or speak on it for months. So he did all of his coaching before he was even a coach in the No Mic channel.
Yes.
Well, you might have to send Chaos a DM because he's a little busy right now, so I have to circle back to him in a couple of weeks to find a date. But absolutely, I mean, there's so many players who have such interesting opinions, and the more I find it, it's like so take that poker book for example. You linked me a poker book that a lot of the coaches use, and it became a meme within the TFT community about like book diff, right? Yeah, book diff.
The book,
right?
book.
And and I'm finding like these mental strategies used in poker, and I've been doing a little bit of homework and listening to like Daniel Negreanu's podcast about this. Like the mental strategies in poker have such strong correlations to TFT. It's almost absurd, right? I think like this idea of like, even from the poker book, is that a mental trap that most players get into is that they have to win, right? Like they have to win or they're a bad player. And I think like the reality of TFT really, and I could be wrong because I'm still a new player here. I think the reality of TFT is that as long as you play good fundamentals and you make the correct plays, you're fine. Like there are games where you won't be able to hit, but realistically, like what do you do about that? Sure, there are pivots that you can move into, but I think ideally at the end of the game, like the correlation is if you feel so desperate that you need to win every game, you're going to tilt and you're going to make really bad plays. Where it's like you just have to be sound.
Yeah, I mean for sure.
100%.
That's what I tell people when they're malding in our chat, or even myself. Like that's always been my philosophy. If I eat a fat eighth and I can't immediately address what went wrong, like there's some games where you just know like, oh, I did everything wrong. Like let's go again. But if I eat one that I don't think I was responsible for, and you start to get that mental creep of like, oh, it's the game's fault and stuff like that, I immediately get up, walk around, go pet my cat, like go get a snack, just something to kind of reset. I think a lot of people before they go 8888888, if at some point in that streak they just got the mail, just left their house, took a little walk, they'd come back refreshed, and like the new game would be a fresh start type thing.
For sure. You actually mentioned something that I want to pivot into here. My goal really with this podcast is to build a platform where players and community leads such as yourself can really just talk about a lot of topics that are maybe might be a little bit sensitive and need a little bit more context to really preface to have properly. Definitely as a the owner of the TFT server, you definitely see a lot of people malding in your general chat, and they just go on and off. And sometimes like I'll be bored and I'll be like, let's see what's going on in the TFT Discord, and then it's just like 5 people malding about LeBlanc, and I'm like, okay, that's probably enough internet for one day, right? So in terms of like tilting, like what would you say really, especially to like newer players to the game who are frustrated with the game, like what would you say to them to help them really pick up the beauty of TFT? I would say.
I
Not
think.
everything you can control. I feel like
Oh,
that's one thing. You just not everything you can control. You just have to deal with it. That's just life. Get
yeah,
fucked.
but I get fucked. I think the
Just hit,
first thing,
just
yeah, just hit 5 head. Actually, I don't know if you've read through all our staff chat blind, but that was actually a staff announcement at one point to not tell players just hit, because it was
Yeah.
becoming such a meme even from the staff that it was detrimental to the Discord as a whole. Um, I think the thing I always tell new people is like it's kind of what you talked about, where new people get frustrated with the RNG because the one thing they'll complain about is how does everyone else hit their champions but I don't. These guys have all their champions golden and I can't even hit the champion I want. Which 9 times out of 10 means they were rolling at the wrong level. They didn't understand strongest board. Like most of TFT is just know they what? Sorry.
No money. They don't have the econ. No money to roll. There's like a
Oh,
lot of factors to it. Yeah.
exactly. Like the first thing I always teach people. I actually recently taught someone new TFT. I told them, I'm like, until you're level 6 at the minimum, you are never re-rolling the shop. I'm like, if you do it before that and you don't know why you're doing it, it is a huge grief. So I always tell new players of like, econ is the thing to learn. There are definitely players who, and then the funny part is new players who hear that go the opposite way and think that they should never go below 50 gold, and then they're
Yeah,
under
for sure.
leveled and under rolled, and it's
right. Yeah, absolutely.
it would just be to like keep a clear head, understand it's a fun game, watch a pro player do it, watch any streamer do it, just ask them, like even type in someone's chat, like if you type to a smaller streamer, like I'm not saying go to Aegon, go to Soju, because you'll learn how to be number one at the game, but just find a random master or diamond tier player. If you type in their chat, can you explain your econ to me this game? I'm trying to learn. That person will probably not shut up for the remainder of that game about why they're making decisions. Like it's every TFT player wants to talk about their decision making, and like to teach a new person, like you're not going to get told away. At worst, you'll hit someone who doesn't talk, but like that, that's one of my favorite things. I love if someone asks me a question in my stream, they just opened up a 30-minute rant, and it's going to go the whole way.
Yeah. Come to me. Come to me. I'll teach you how to fucking econ in this game.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Yeah, coaches are helpful for that, which is why we've always talked about even having like I don't think we have any yet, but we've always discussed getting coaches who are even just diamond or platinum to handle the complete beginners, where it's like they just need to know how to play TFT. Like they don't need to know how to be rank 1.
Yeah, I've coached a lot of beginner players. Like I remember my first time coaching on ranked, we literally didn't play the game. I literally went on PBE. I went to a 1v0 and went through all the like mechanics in the game, all the buttons, what they do, like how to use the game, like actually how to use the game. That's how like beginner we went.
That's actually my biggest like my biggest checkmark success for set 5 so far, is how, like, some people complain, they're like, oh, some of these skins look the same, but the skins are actually so color coded outside of
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a
for
few
sure.
outliers. It's
Yeah.
so easy that I taught a new player how to play redeemed, and they were like, oh, like, I need to roll a lot of gold this turn. What do you recommend? And I was like, if it's yellow, click buy. Like, there's no other thought. Like, Rel is the only outlier. Kale is
Yeah.
a bit green, but like, I think they accidentally bought one champion. It was like Callista, and I was like, no, that's green more. And they were like, oh yeah, yeah, I see it. But like, and the next game they played Forgotten, and I was like, click all the teal units. Like, it's just
Yeah. Like, but
so
then
easy
but
for that.
another thing is like as more time they realize like rel is just a must buy anyway, so it didn't really matter.
It's true. It's true.
Some units you just look at and you just buy, right? If you look at my top played units, it's Rel, then it's Ivan. No, I think it's Rel, Volibear, Ivan. Like I can't remember Volibear, Ivan, which one plays. I think Ivan's higher than Volibear, but those three are my most played units. I have 36 games.
Absolutely.
I have 33 games with Rel in it, and that's saying something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but
For sure.
like
So
this, yeah,
definitely
I
like
enjoy how they did it. Maybe just because I know the skins, just
Mhm.
maybe.
the skins were definitely a huge point of anger for me when I first started this game because I'm coming from like 9-10 years of League of Legends. I've been playing since season 1, and it's like I can't even recognize who's in the portrait when I mouse them with a trait. Like who are these fuckers? And then why do they all have different skins? And that's definitely like one of the charms of TFT. Like the traits and the aesthetics of it are really nice, but it's definitely extremely frustrating for a newer player who's coming from multiple years of League. So I guess like going on this tangent of like new players and coaching, like I'm curious how much is your involvement within the coaching program of the server?
I try to leave everything to the heads of their departments, like Twilla with the head of the event staff and Lino with head of coaching. Um, that was kind of my first goal when I promoted people to that role. Was like, hey, I want to offshore these responsibilities, like because it used to be more intensive where I was doing like activity checks and just making sure everyone's reviews were good and stuff like that. But it's too much work. It's not something
For
I need
sure.
to handle on a day to day basis. Um, the only like even people who message me and they're like, I want to become a coach. What do I have to do? I'm like, just talk to Lino. Like
Just like
he'll
to
let
lean.
you know. Because it really is. It's like the only time I'm usually involved in the decision is before people are made staff. So like when Lino was promoting new coaches, he would come to me with like, here's my short list of 10 people. Um, he's still whittling it down, but he's like, is there anyone you'd cross out immediately? And I would just pull up like our mod logs and obviously recognize some of the names, and I might just say like, okay, this person's been banned 3 times. Don't even consider them.
Really? Oh, is that a like exam or has it actually happened?
That's happened. We've definitely had people who have been banned apply before. And it's just like, okay, this person is known as a rager. This person is kind of mean to new people. Like there's just it's definitely perception is everything because I don't want someone to become staff who will then make our Discord look bad.
For sure.
So that is immediately like I'm involved in that point. But then if he says like these are the 4 I'm promoting, you cool as long as there's no issues from that. It's like yep, just keep them on a short leash for the sort of like trial period. But it's very rare that we've had to demote someone. I think it's happened a total of 3 times in 2 years now.
Wait, but
Wow, that's
then
actually really good.
wait. 3 times in 2 years, but
Mhm.
all 3 of them happened in set 4 and 4.5.
True. There were a few people who left of their own accord due to some differing opinions, but you're right. There was a lot in set 4. I think most of them were.
Yeah, I think majority of them were in set 4 because like I remember like there's 3 main ones I know, right? And yeah, and that's the
I'm
one
not.
I
I'm
the
not
most.
naming names here.
At first, I'm not naming names, either, and I'm generally shocked that was none before.
Yeah, like there's been a few, but I can think of warnings other mods made, but I think the difference too is, and I want to touch back on something else real quick, but I think the difference too is ever since I got control of the Discord, and whether this is good or bad, I like to think that I rule it with an iron fist. Um, because like it used to be that here's the riot guidelines. You have to be warned this amount of times, which then becomes this tier of a mute, which then becomes this tier of a ban, and like realistically, yes, that is a good guideline to follow, but and obviously there's exceptions. Like if someone comes in and says the N word, you just drop straight to a ban. But I tend to be like, if I spot someone coming in and they break what back then would have been a warning, but I'm like, you know what? I'm already getting vibes. This person isn't good for the community. I'd rather just ban them outright. And if they submit a half decent appeal, let them back in than risk letting like a toxic mindset start to take place in the Discord. Which is actually, I will name names here. Everyone knows we have a malding room, or most people know we have a malding room, which originally was because in set 3, Clear on the Discord malded so much that they would go on like a 20 message rant by themselves. So we made a role called Clearly Upset with the Clear Room. And anytime someone started ranting and didn't care what people had to say, they got put in a little timeout in there.
No, that was funny. That was funny. I think I've been in there once because I was curious what it was.
Yeah,
Was,
once everyone hears about it, they're like, "Oh, let me in, let me in."
I think. Wait, what's the that was funny. That was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, sorry, just to touch back, Blind, because you mentioned, I know you're newer to TFT, like you only joined it in the last 2 sets. One of the funnier things that you weren't around for, talking about difficult to read display pictures, when mobile became a thing, they were testing something out. I want to say it was only on PBE. I don't think it ever made it live. But instead of splash arts, it was 3D moving pictures, which I think Dota does. And my God, did it look awful.
Oh, I remember that.
that just sounds bad.
Yeah, like picture the like Udyr standing in base doing that like thing where they're like shifting weight constantly. It was they tried it. They got so much backlash that I think the very next PBE patch they reverted because they were like, yeah, but they were trying to I think they thought it would be better for mobile gamers, and they tried it and it was like, no, neither community wants this.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, for sure. I think it's definitely. I'm curious. Like, I really want to get on somebody from the design team. Like, it doesn't have to be Mort Dog, but I want to get somebody from the staff and like really ask them like, what are their priorities when it comes to the design of this game? Because it's not easy to do. Like, I think there's a huge, there's a huge meme like, oh, I got Mort Dogged, or 200 years, and everybody bashes on Riot for game design choices that they're not clearly happy with. But it's not an easy task, right? Like, as soon as you change one thing, it has wow, I'm sorry, my brain just farted here. It has implications over like the whole game, right? Even something as clarity in terms of like the portraits. Like, sure, the portraits can be confusing the first time you take a look at them, but how else would you really make that clarity? Like, would you rather just a really long list of the actual champions that you're looking for?
Yeah, like it's why also that's something I'll say. A lot of new people should use the like that blitz.gg, overwolf.gg, stuff like that. Like it's actually so helpful for beginner people.
Yeah, 100%.
Just because they can mouse over it and be like, okay, I want to play this comp. What are the units in it? And then you get those little pictures. Because like you said, some of them, Nidalee is a great example of like, if you just look at that picture and I asked you which League of Legends champion that is, you probably wouldn't say Nidalee.
No, it looks like toy cannon. You know what I mean? Like it looks like it does with the mask and the eyes. But
I thought it was an Evelyn skin when I first saw it. I was like, oh, Eve, and then I bought it and I was like, oh, oop.
Oops.
Yeah, the hardest one I've ever had was Cho'Gath of last patch, because it didn't look like Cho'Gath whatsoever. Like I swore it was like
a brand new skin. It was a brand new skin. That's why it was like super confusing. Like I didn't like the skin line at all. The Fabled skin line.
Oh, I think they look amazing in actual League.
Oh, I didn't like how it looks, but the skills and stuff looks really, really nice for sure.
Okay. Because I did the recall. I was playing that Nautilus skin on stream, and I did the recall animation, and then people in chat were just like, "Oh my god, that's so cool!" And I was like, "Yeah, that is a sick skin." But I agree overall, it was super. It's kind of the trade off. There like an example being in set 4. Ash was an Elderwood, and they just used one of her skins and colored it green. But then halfway through the set, when a Dragon Fairy skin came out for her that was very clearly woodland, you instantly start to think, kind of like the Nautilus Cho stuff. It's like, oh, was this meant to be the TFT skin, but it wasn't ready in time? And at that point, they don't want to change it mid-set and be like, this is what Ash looks like now, because that'd be even worse. So it just, Like, yeah, exactly. Like because they release new skins for League and TFT at the same time. I guess it kind of leaves both people on the same back foot in a good way, but yeah, people who are new to TFT but know all the League characters or at least some of their skins, it definitely gets hard.
For sure, for sure. So, I mean, as the owner of the server and somebody who clearly watches a lot of people mauled and has even created, a channel which I haven't seen yet, a channel for people to maul, the legendary maulding channel. Like, what do you think are the most pragmatic steps for people who are just learning the game to do to not only get over that learning hump but also deal with tilt? Because like league tilt is interesting because you can blame other people as much as you want, right? Like, oh, my jungler fed, oh, my support fed, oh, I lost for this XYZ. I feel like in TFT the cognitive dissonance of tilt is so strong because you can either blame yourself or you just blame the game, right? And I remember when I was learning this game, I came across this meme where it's like a beginning TFT player's like, oh, this game's so cool, it's so beautiful, it's awesome. Veteran TFT players like, this game sucks. This is a trash dog game. Why do I play this? Right?
Um, yeah, I guess for getting over the new hump, a lot of it is, I think, getting like as bad as it sounds, because it I'm sure the developers don't want this as the mindset. They don't want you to have to go to other people to learn the game, but like watching someone on stream or having someone watch you play can very much be a good step. Though I would probably say to at least play 10 to 15 games yourself, just to, you're probably going to lose them all, but just get a feel for it. Because like the person who I just got into TFT, they played a few by themselves, came in first every game. They're like, oh, this game's easy. And then they came in eighth 5 times in a row and messaged me and was like, I have been humbled. And it's because the game was finally like, okay, we're not going to put you up against like AFK token farmers. So it's difficult to get into. It's helpful when other people can kind of give you that start. And in terms of tilt, like I know it's rough to hear things like, oh, it's just a game and stuff like that, but like one of the things all of our coaches did too that used to help people. I don't know if Lux was around at this point, but Tian did this for a long time, which was at the end of every game, he wrote what he did wrong and what he did right, and he kept a notepad of this, and he did it for, I want to say, an entire set, possibly two of them. So at the end of a game, he would put like what level I can't remember the exact results. It was like what level he got to, what place he finished, and then what was right, what was wrong. So he might write like went fifth, ended game level 8, blue econ early looking for Shyvana, didn't recover, stuff like that, and it was just something to look back on as to, okay, what have I messed up and what can I improve on? The only reason I don't address that for new players as much is because they probably don't know what they did wrong yet. Like you kind of right. It takes learning to know what you're doing wrong to be able to recognize how to improve it.
Yeah.
For sure. But also, like, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, another thing I was going to bring up because of that, because I feel like times like they don't it's such an investment, I mean, every single game you had to sit down and go back through your game. Like for them, they might just play for fun, right? They're not here to try to advance so fast, but then when you do want to climb, that's a different story, right? So that's when you like think, but I wasn't here for it, but that sounds like a great idea. Like I usually every single game, right? I remember I came fifth like a couple days ago. Like that's like my second, third, fifth in this set. Right. And I was like, I just stopped playing. I just like fucking I didn't play for a whole day. The whole day I was just thinking about how I fucked up that game. I was like thinking about the whole day. That's how fucking rough it was. Yeah, it's like a lot of times you just had to sit back and think about what you did wrong. Right. That's the best time to improve. Like as soon as you know what you did wrong, like you're improving because you know what you do next time. Right. That's one thing people don't understand.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's definitely, I think, like a very clear division of players who play this game for fun and players who are competitive with it. I think, for the newer players, like you can just show them some fundamentals and give them some tips, and then they'll be like, "Oh, this game's so easy. I'm coming first every time." Like your friend you were talking about there. And then as soon as you get into like a lobby of actually competitive players, you realize like, "Oh, this game's actually a lot more intricate than I thought." Like there's actually a lot more thought that goes into behind this, and now it's like it's almost like regular league, where it's like I'm trying to focus as little on myself so I can devote as much time to focusing on what the other players are doing.
Yeah, exactly. That's yeah. I got coaching. We have a friend in our Discord who's masters in regular league as well. And I had him coach me, and it was very interesting just to see the level of what I didn't know, because like I was playing the jungle and he's a jungle main, and it's like every time I went to go do stuff, he was like, no, 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 farm. He's like, you need. His game plan was like always optimizing these farming routes to the point of like where I was like, well, I've got my 2 buffs. I was going to go gank top, and he'd be like, no, 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 like we're taking Krugs on the way there. We're taking this. We're going here, and it ended up where as I'd look at the game, I'd be like, oh, I'm 60 CS up ahead of the other jungler and 2 levels on them, and I'm not AFK farming. I am actually ganking. It's like that. Those optimizations that you don't know are there until someone who is like leagues ahead of you points it out to you, that you're like, oh, this is, yeah, like you said, this is deeper than I thought. There's way more thought than just, oh, they don't miss skill shots, as an example.
Yeah, yeah, right. Like they don't miss skill shots. Yeah, it's skill expression, man, is so interesting because it pushes itself, right? Like as soon as one person makes an inch in terms of skill expression, the whole community catches up, right? And that's what I find interesting about TFT is like you can get to. I have a friend who it's a friend who actually got me into TFT. Because they were trying to grind out last set and they were plat, so I couldn't join them, and they would never like play a game with me. Like they wouldn't play normals. Like no, I'm trying to get to diamond. I'm like, all right, well, I'm just gonna start playing ranked TFT, and now you can't ignore me. And and what happened is like they got hard stuck diamond, right? And I made it to masters last season. So yesterday I was actually just backseating, just watching them play, and I realized like they never actually took the time to build good fundamentals of like win streaking, even just like what to do during stages, right? Like you're rolling, you're scouting, you're repositioning, and you're slamming, like in that order, right? Thanks, Lux, for teaching me that. But
Oh,
like
heads up, funny thing. I also coached the other guy he was talking about.
that's actually how I met Lux, right? That's actually how
Oh,
I met Lux.
yeah.
So, but the thing is like it's crazy how you can hit diamond without even solidifying the fundamentals. Like when I made an alt account last season, uh, I when I was in gold, it's like nobody's slamming items. Like I'm just placing first every time because people have just like 7 components on their bench and they're not doing anything at all, right? Now, fast forward in like a year or two, like gold can be completely different. And I think Nyar, we had a conversation about this earlier where it's like, masters is pretty obtainable for anyone. And then once you hit masters, it's like that's the real climb. Right. I'm really interested to see like how far we're able to push TFT. I remember like even I was watching, I forget what it was. I think it was like Soju, but they were talking about like, every TFT set eventually gets solved and then the most optimal plays, become apparent to everybody. But at the beginning of the set, it's kind of like, nobody knows. Everybody's experimenting. Everybody's trying different things, and maybe that's probably like the most fun part, but also the most frustrating part for most newer players. Is that there's no real like there's no real good advice outside of fundamentals, right? Like everybody in the Discord right now is asking like, what's the best opener? What's the best build? What's the best comp? And I feel like I even saw you now like trying to answer some of those questions. And the hard part is like the I feel like the actual answer every time is it depends.
It depends.
It,
And
it,
guess what? Wizard's gonna come in. It does not depend. There's 100% a right answer. No, there's no right answer to this, right? Because every game changes. There's no one
yes,
answer.
that's the biggest skill in TFT. Like the biggest skill in my mind is just strongest board, because there are players who, like when you watch the top 10 players, they will go level 8, level 9 playing
I
a board that is some mishmash you've never thought of, never seen, don't think is strong, and they're winning. And you're like, how is this win streaking?
I think it's actually not the strongest. The strongest is two things. One's innovation. The other thing is adaptability, right? I feel like that's what make the top players top, right?
But I think strongest board is adaptability, because you have
Yeah,
to be able to play every board.
yeah. But I feel like it's because they can adapt and they are super creative with how they adapt and understand everything about the game. They be able to play strong board. Like I can play my strongest board, but their strongest board will be like 10 times stronger than my board. You know what I mean? right?
Yeah.
Like because of the difference in like the fact that they can just adapt to the set much better, like much faster. That's why they get grabbed on so fast. That's why Baby is not ranked one. You know what I mean, in the world, right? That's why Soju is so far up. Like it's not because how much game they play, right? It's actually because how well they play. You know what I
Mhm,
mean?
mhm.
Like what
That-
Baby's like 60, 70 games and his challenger. Like what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like
Although, and that's always been a thing where we've kind of wanted to bring this up is like, not to. I'm not trying to pull Bebe down. I think Bebe is inarguably one of the top. I'd probably say he's an arguably top 10. Some people would argue he's top one. Some people would argue, it, there's a difference in. To me, the top two players like of ladder, you could argue, are generally Bebe and like Polt was one of the kings of ladder.
Paul,
Yeah, Polt like from StarCraft, where he literally for a whole season, I think set two, he went 4-4-4-4-4-4-4, and he just farmed fours until he was rank one. But he never played for first or eighth, only four.
three.
Pardon?
Oh, was it set 2 or set 3?
I don't remember which one he joined. It might have been three.
I think it was 3 because Bunny Muffins made a video on him and set 3 and talked about
Oh,
how
okay.
yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, but those are like there's a difference between, and then like it's not that it's not fair, but it's like to the people who say, "Oh, Bebe is number one in the world," it's like, well, we do literally have a world champ, but then that's also a different play style compared to ladder, and then you also have to factor in regional strength. Like,
Yeah, sure,
I don't want to slam any regions, but like for a long time, rank one world was I want to say someone in the Taiwan server, and it was he was like this is in a bygone set. This might have even been set one. But he was rank one, and if he had 1,700 LP or whatever it was, the second person in his region had like 800. So it was just a case of him farming his region. But could he hit those numbers in EU West? I doubt it, but especially because I still don't know who it is. I haven't seen him on the competitive scene. But that's kind of the thing is like, hitting rank one world, some of the regions are less competitive. Some of like it's difficult for me to get a feed or a feel for anything until you actually get to a world's level where you're like, okay, this play like, and it's even tough to get a feel there because as an example, if you're looking at OCE, it's like once you get to the world stage, there's one person there from OCE. Is how he does indicative of the entire region or just him? Like you can't look at him going fifth as an example and saying, oh, OCE is the fifth best region. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that.
No. He might just be the outlier and just the best player in OCE, you never know, right?
Well, that's it. And I think Bebe is an outlier for, well, and that's actually, sorry, that's it. I would say Bebe is an outlier for Korea, but then Bebe doesn't qualify for Worlds. So,
he of the world thing when he went for Worlds, that was kind of sad. Well, it's all right.
Yeah, and that's it. I was super sad he didn't make it to Worlds. But it just ends up being like you got to win when it counts, and obviously there's always not complaints, but there's always discussion and merit as to how the tournaments are formatted and stuff like that because that it's a new genre. Like every other genre has its its tournaments down pat because they've been doing it for
forever.
How many years now?
At times, you know what I mean? Like League of Legends, 10 years. You know what I mean? This is 11th.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, like at this point when you're playing League of Legends.
No, it's 11th year.
Yeah.
At it, right?
Yeah. Like when they do a tournament, the only complaints are, oh, should it have been best of 5? Uh-oh, what? Can you not hear me, Lux?
The only part was like it would just cut right in like a conversation. I was just about to say something and cut off.
You remember what you were gonna say?
We're talking about how tournaments, like how TFT is just like a new game, right?
Yeah.
And they just don't have enough practice in a sense in the game, in the tournament like, organization compared to another.
On the flip side, I think the qualifiers need work, and I don't necessarily have a solution there. Like I think the path to Worlds has a few good things and a few bad things, and that needs worked on. But I will say, when they actually get to Worlds and I forget the term for it. Do you remember the term? It's not lightning round. What is it where... Oh, what's the term for it?
Which one are you talking about? The beginning
or the end?
The end is like... It's like a king or something, wasn't it? Something about kings. Like there's like a special...
I don't think it was Kings. I'm trying to find. Everyone in our Discord says the word format every 10 minutes. Um, but it's like a king making type format where you have to come in first once you get across that certain point threshold. I've said
Yeah.
it a few times in our Discord, and I'll say it here. It is probably not the best for the players. The players, as a player, I would complain about that because it feels bad that like last year, Milk, I think, went 2-2-2-2-2-2-2, and he couldn't win worlds because sorry, those are only seconds. But as a viewer, it's hype as hell. Like it, I got all my friends who don't even watch TFT watching Worlds because once they saw the format and saw the excitement of like this guy is 2 rounds from winning the whole game kind of thing, and then he doesn't, it becomes so exciting of like, oh god, he's got to run it back, and now this guy's chasing him, and it's like, it's the best format. I love it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
for the uninitiated, because I'm not too familiar with tournament format, walk me through like what is it currently, and how could it be better or worse? Like, walk me through, update me,
So
keep me in the loop here.
Can I add something before that? Like, I don't like how each region has their own different tournament format. That was kind of weird.
That's true too.
Yeah,
That's true too. Every region qualifies in different ways.
Yeah, it should be just one thing, and it's like Riot's qualifier, right? You know what I mean? Like everybody does the same thing. So everybody, like each region will get like the same, like similar ways to get through. Like different people, different regions, like, oh yeah, they beat this rank on the ladder. And another region is like, oh yeah, they will go through qualifiers. Or another region is like, okay, you get to bypass the first qualifier by being this rank. You know what I mean? And then go to the second qualifier. It's like so messy. Like just keep
Yeah,
us one.
there's definitely a few issues in that regard. Like, and I think one thing that came out of last year was that I think China's qualifier to Worlds had a higher prize pool than Worlds, but I might be wrong. But they like were able to pump the most money into it. But to go over at least for North America how it happens, which honestly, Blind, this is kind of the problem. I'm not going to be able to tell you exactly because it's a bit convoluted. So yeah, the issue with the qualifiers here is I don't think I can describe it accurately to you, Blind, because I don't think it's I don't think it's super clear itself. But there's essentially 3 ways to qualify. The first was through sheer ladder points, which if you're rank 1 the whole set, I believe that means you are at least guaranteed a spot in the final qualifier round to go to Worlds. Like if they do a tournament of 24 people, you're in there. Which I believe is how DQA got in last year, as an example. Then there's the tournament of they essentially do a tournament every, I want to say 2 weeks, called the qualifier for the qualifier. And if you do well enough at that, you are instantly invited for free, or like not for free, but you're instantly invited to the next qualifier for the qualifier. And it ends up being a points-based system across 4 different qualifier tournaments. And the top, let's say 4, maybe 6 people from that move on to that qualifier tournament that the best people in the ladder are on. And then the final thing they did was the tournament we ran in on our Discord, which if you won that, 6 people from that went into the final of that 4 qualifier series to go to the final qualifier. So the tournament we ran was a qualifier for a qualifier for a qualifier. And then essentially you could be 3 tournament wins away from Worlds. But that's kind of how it worked with different formats for several tournaments. Like some are multi-day, some were 1 day, some are ladder, obviously. So that's just North America, though, because like Lux said there's like some regions were just a tournament and you're in, or like just ladder. Or I don't know if there's any pure ladder ones, but it very much was like.
I think OCE was a pure ladder one, no?
It might have been. It was definitely tournament. Like Europe had, I think Europe was like just the ladder and then a tournament. But there wasn't multiple ways in, which North America had due to Riot NA being a bit of a bigger entity. So that was kind of like some of the complaints, so to speak. It's funny because Europe keeps killing it at Worlds and having great representation, but there's just complaints on their end as to how to get into it. It could be better.
100%.
Interesting.
Like
every region has a different qualifier, for example.
Yeah, the only ones that are run by the same team, as far as I know, is OCE and NA. Those are both run by the same like, I don't know if it's the same on the esports side, but Riot NA and Riot OCE are essentially the same entity. So I think it's at least the same team setting that up, but they might have someone they assigned it to who's different.
I think I can't remember. I think it's beginning of this year. Riot OC got absorbed by Riot NA, so we don't really have anymore.
It might have been. You're right. I think it might have changed because that was around the time when our prize codes started to also work in OCE. So it kind of makes sense that that was around the time it happened.
Still sucks. I can't play with my NA friends with an OCE account though on like Summoner's Rift. That's a PG half.
True.
That'd be very nice if they can just like switch it over like without spending every single time to switch over and switch back. You know, sometimes you just play your champion with your skins. You know what I mean? It's like, god damn it. But yeah.
True. Yeah, it is a bit weird that like I get why they do it, but it does suck that you can't tie your accounts across multiple regions to at least get the same skins because it would promote playing on other regions. Like it's the only reason I don't climb in EU West just because I don't have my Fury Horns.
Another thing is I feel like they can probably separate like qualifying through qualifiers and qualifying through ladder as like two different groups of qualifying, and then the worlds might just have a longer, like an extra day or two to sift out all of those players. You know what I mean? Then you can actually pitch ladder players versus tournament players and see which one is the better play style. You know what I mean? That might be interesting. At least that's what I like thought about. It's like if we like a way to solve it, it'll be like, okay, each region brings in like 4 ladder players and 4 qualified players or some shit like that.
It would definitely be interesting, but I think the issue is if you condense it to a 3-day tournament, like that's kind of the stereotypical format for TFT. Then the tournament players should win because they are the people who win 3-day tournaments versus the latter people who do well over X amount of games.
Oh, Chaos told me what it is. It's called Checkmate. That's I thought King. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. That's Checkmate format. You're right. That's it. Yeah. I haven't heard it since Worlds, so nothing runs it but TFT, but it's such a great format.
Of course,
that
Chaos
sounds pretty interesting. Yeah, this is the first time I'm hearing about Checkmate format. Yeah, Lux, you gotta message Chaos and tell him to come on the show because he told me he's busy.
He told me he was busy. I was like, don't lie to us. I've been trying, but yeah, Chaos lives and breathes TFT. Like that man's crazy. He's
Definitely
also really
get him
good
on the show.
But yeah, I feel like the difference between like a ladder player and a tournament player is like because tournament has its own meta, right? Ladder players take a little bit longer to adapt to metas compared to like tournament players, right?
Well, it's especially true of what people were talking about Aegon, how he's definitely like he climbs, but he's not a ladder player in the slightest. Yeah. And there's an argument to be made before Worlds happened, or sorry, the qualifier for Worlds. He was like he steamrolled through Worlds playing his Spirit Sharpshooters comp, and he played it a lot on ladder, but he did atrociously. And the argument is, was he perfecting it, or was he trying to make everyone think it was absolute crap so they wouldn't touch it? And then he goes to Worlds and he pulls this out and he goes 1-1-1-1-1 and starts winning with it, and everyone's like, "What the hell is this comp?" And then for weeks after, it dominated the ladder, but like. There's players who do dominate the ladder, and then like there's people who see the ladder as a tool where it's like, I'm gonna test something, I'm gonna try something, I'm gonna blind fake and make everyone think this is bad.
Aegon is so big brain, right? I would love to like pick his brain someday. Like,
yeah, we were talking about questions we'd have for him because even in a game today, I opened forward until I had 35 HP, and immediately one of my friends watching says, "Today you are the Aegon." And it's just it's such a unique playstyle, and I came second that game because it's just you open fort, and you know the man is probably one of the few people who truly sees HP as a tradable resource that he can at one point choose to stop trading, whereas everyone else is like, once you're at 20 HP, you're like, I don't know that I can stop that bleeding.
Yeah, so he is like the opposite of Polt, right? Polt was the guy who would trade gold for HP. Right? Yep. This is what I find fascinating. It's like Polt changed how we play TFT by pre-leveling, by leveling up. Remember back in set 3, we would never level until 3-2. That's where we pushed 6. Right? Before that, we just sat there.
You know what I mean? Okay, This is super interesting because I don't know many OCE people who played back then, or at least I didn't pick their brain enough. Because I would go all the way back to set two when there were two differing metas. It since has homogenized a ton, but like in set one, comps were literally named after regions. Like there was Chinese shapeshifters because they played
Yeah.
a very different version.
Yeah.
And in set two, there was NA meta and EU meta, and they didn't cross. I think you guys were more like EU meta, which you're talking about, where you like did not level, didn't force it. Whereas NA was like, no, I'm slamming levels and I'm playing berserkers. And
Yeah,
then you
because
looked at the EU ladder board, and it was all ocean mages, and it was just like it was to the point we coached a gold, I want to say, player in TFT on NA, and I coached him and I got him a first. And it was just I coached him. I was like, we're gonna slam levels, we're gonna be stupid, we're gonna be aggressive. First place. Tien coached him, who at the time was top 10 challenger. Don't know if he was rank 1 at the time. And he coached him and he's like, okay, we're gonna play this next game Euro meta. And he got him an ocean mage. He got him an ocean mage board, and he said, perfect, we've capped the board, locked in, we could walk away from the board. And the guy ate a fourth. And it was just, it didn't translate to NA at the time because Tien would say, like, okay, we're win streaking. And then he'd hit the guy who's level 7 before Krugs and go, why the hell is this man level 7? It's like, you're in North America, buddy. We're slamming that button. And it's just,
yeah,
it became like it's so interesting how the meta is based on the people you're playing. Like, it's why we talk about you can't have someone AFK in a tournament because it ruins open forwarding. And the same is true here. Like, if you want to econ and you're playing in a lobby where you notice everyone is 6 before Krugs, you are dead.
Yeah. Oh, another thing I want to add. You know what's funny? With last set, I was asking Chaos, so like, because NA, he told me this. NA is very, very, very good at capping level 8 boards, right? That's their good thing. And I was like pretty good at that. I played super greedy set 4 because I was just like, set 4 or 5, sorry. I wasn't like really into the set. And I feel like he just had the cap. And then he was just telling me, it's like, if you want to practice early game, play EUS. That's it. That's their thing. They're like they play early games so aggro. You know what I mean? And that was very, very interesting to me how he said that. I was like, oh, okay, cool. You know what I mean? It's like in different regions you can actually go and play and practice different things. I feel like
Yeah, that's
very,
that's
very
the super interesting thing because it used to be the thing in League where you'd go to Korea and try to play in Korea to get that, like, oh, these are the best players and the best ladder and stuff like that. Whereas, yeah, if you need to work on a different facet of your game, it might be region specific.
Yeah, it's like different regions have different things, and it's like practice. Like,
Yeah, like
This is super interesting for me because
yeah,
I didn't know too much about this, but it makes a lot of sense, right? Like,
yeah, another thing.
I've talked to people who have struggled within like silver lobbies because everybody's just donkey rolling and like they're just donkey rolling at 0 gold for all of stage 4. And
yeah,
it's
they
like,
have gold units before carousel, and you're just like, stop, donkey! Like, it's ruining my game plan, and you're not going to win, but you're beating me.
Yeah,
right, and you got to be flexible to the lobby to some point. I guess going back to your point of like adaptability, right? It's like you need to be watching the lobby more than yourself.
Yeah, like I think if I were to name regions, it's like when I think of the Asian meta, the comps that come to mind, and I'm sure someone will dispute me on this, but the comps that come to mind were Chinese shapeshifters were the first one, which they re-rolled shapeshifters. I want to say they came up with, like, it might have been Korea, I don't know which one, but I want to say they came up with Kassassin, which was a re-roll comp, and then they came up with egg roll, which again, re-roll comp. Like, whenever a dominant meta tends to come from the Asia scene and translate to ours, it's a reroll comp. So to me, you talking about like, oh, you want to perfect early game, you go to EU in that meta. To me, I'm like, if I need to perfect like slow rolling, I don't know if they're still doing that, but it's like every time a slow roll comp came out, it was from them.
Yeah.
And every time a porn name comp came out, it was from OCE.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool. Okay.
I'm so sad that didn't continue past set 3, but
Yeah.
sorry, I'll let you continue, Blind.
What was it? No, tell me. I might have missed it. What was it?
Oh, so there was a post on competitive TFT from the previous rank 1 OCE player, Esha, If you mention Esha, a lot of players love Esha, but if you mention Esha, a lot of players will facepalm because he made a post, and I believe it was called Rank 1 OCE How I Got There One Tricking Bang Bros.
Yeah.
And it was it was a Yasuo Master Yi comp that it's just two bros and they bang. So he called it
Two
Bang
brothers.
Bros. Yep, and that was the comp. And in the next set, Bang Bros was a thing too, and it became a thing where during Worlds for set 3, someone was playing it, and it was super funny because the way Riot kind of censored it was they were like, "Oh, this guy's playing Blade Bros," and it was just like, "Okay, we all know what you're talking about." And from that point of logic, every time someone came up with a comp, which a lot were from Esha, they just got porn names in set 3. Like the top, we actually had to change our censor on the Discord that was meant to catch porn names because they were legitimate comps. Like the comps that I can instantly name off the bat, which some people argue what comp they were because it's been so long. But there was Bang Bros, there was Fake Taxi, Bang Bus, Bratty Sis, E-Girls.
No.
I think that's all of them.
Yeah, Bang Bros and Egos are the comps I played in set 3.5.
Yeah, they were the most played. I played a ton of Fake Taxi, and it was just, and it was known. Like it wasn't some niche thing where people were like, oh, only people on the Reddit would know it or anything like that. It's like, no, it's you'd go on the Discord and someone would be like, hey, what's the opener for Bang Bros? And it was just a common thing, and it got to the point that I couldn't openly discuss TFT on mic with people if I was like not at home because you just be like, oh yeah, you're gonna want to go Bang Bus, and just, and people, you can't say that if you're on a bus.
No.
Wait, what's Fake Taxi? That's one I don't know.
So Bang Bus was Mech Victor. Fake Taxi was Rebel Mech, where you'd go like Rebel with GP and Jinx.
Yeah. That one's like a disaster. But yeah,
Dude, that is wild. That is. I can't even process that right now. Like that's
yeah, it was just that. That's why it's so sad that like I want to say in 4.5 like and 4 for the greater bit like our comp names have kind of changed to back to what they were pre set 3, where it's like, oh, what are you playing? And it's like, oh, Forgotten Draven. Or, oh, what are you playing? Skirmishers. Like, what are you playing? Because back then it was like, oh, I'm playing Zerkers. I'm playing Twitch. I'm playing like it's gone back to, or I'm playing Electric Zed. Like the comp names back then were just factual, but like only for set 3 and 3.5 did they have stupid names, and then we all agreed to stop doing it, and it's just weird to me.
That's fucking funny. So who decides the comp name? Is it the person who like makes it more popular? I'm imagining like the person who actually makes a guide on it.
So it was mainly Esha / the person who made a guide on it, but at the time, if you didn't name your comp, the community would. Like, if you were playing Riven, like Bratty Sis was Riven Carry. If you played Riven, if you played Riven Carry, I want to say it was just a thing, and then someone was like, "Oh, you mean like Bratty Sis?" And then everyone was like, and Twitch chat just like pants grab exploded, and they're like, "We can call this Bratty Sis?" Done. And they just like. At that point, anytime someone said something, it was just like, oh no, it's Bratty Sis. Like, no. It's like, and it dominated. It's like e-girls was a quote unquote bad word, like before it became a thing people started to like claim themselves as, in the same way people say they're goth or whatever. So e-girls was just an insult, but then it became like, oh no, all of the Star Guardian skins are the e-girls, and that was the comp. So we at the time had e-girls censored because it was only ever said as an insult, but then in one day, the censor log hit like 100 hits of e-girls, and it was like, okay, we have to uncensor this or the Discord becomes unusable.
100%. Yeah, that was like the funniest shit ever. Like, I get censored for like stuff like, okay, oops.
Yeah, you'd be like, I'm playing e-girls, and then someone would be like, and the message would disappear, and they'd be like, what are you playing? Thinking you said like an atrocious word, and you're like, the name of the comp. Oh, and Public Agent was the other comp name from back then that I couldn't think of. That was the
Public Agent.
It was Caitlyn reroll.
Yeah. Caitlyn reroll was. Oh, and the J-Mog was a thing, dude.
J-Mog? What was that one?
Java Warmogs.
I don't know that I ever saw that one.
Java that's what JMogs was. Java Mormogs, when Mormogs got changed and Protector was a thing, and that guy wouldn't die and you reroll Java.
Okay, I could see that. Interesting. Oh yeah, and Shredder. Yeah, like even then Shredder was a thing. Like the
Yeah.
closest we come nowadays is like people will make a joke when you have a ton of static shivs on a Ziggs that it's like Pikachu or a Zigachu, but it's like
Yeah. The only things that I know of for this set right now are like Pikachu, like
Mhm.
Pikachu Ziggs, and like 2 Chains, and that's it. Those are the
Yeah,
only meme names I know
that's the
to
only
this
things
day.
I've even remotely heard. I'm surprised A-Bomb doesn't like A-Bomb is what Mech was to an extent. So I'm surprised people haven't come up with a ton of stupid names for it yet.
Huh, that's interesting. So why don't we segue into like I remember now you were telling me a while ago how TFT has a pretty interesting like Twitch chat community.
Uh,
So I'm not super like involved into that. In all honesty, like I rarely watch Twitch until really I started playing TFT and just started watching people play. But for the uninitiated, like tell me a little bit more about that.
TFT on Twitch is kind of its own subgenre. I can't speak if other communities have this. I'm sure they do to an extent, but like when I think of, as an example, just to talk about a different one, when I think of the Dark Souls community, they have that whole praise the sun meme and Solaris and all that stuff. But that's kind of just a known meme. TFT on Twitch is kind like I want to say it's been formed by the streamers themselves, but like there's so many phrases that are almost I hope everyone isn't using them as part of their daily lexicon, but I think a lot of people do to an extent, especially among other TFT players, is like saying things like it's an eighth, it's a first, BG.
No. It's doomed.
Yeah, it's doomed, it's doomed, it's an eighth, it's scuffed, go next.
Yeah.
Like terms that have then come from TFT, low rolling, high rolling. Like I think I made jokes about that in set 2 where it'd be like, guys, I got a match on Tinder, we got a date. I'm high rolling. And it became like synonymous with like the same way people use Pog as like, oh, this is cool, like Pog. Now
Yeah.
you get things of like Aegon Concern was the biggest emo, and like
Yeah.
Pants Grab is the newest thing. And it's like I only found out recently when I was on LOL NA or the League of Legends NA Discord that they didn't know what pants grab was, and I was like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "It's the thing everyone uses on Twitch," and they're
What do you mean you don't know
yeah,
pants grab?
and they're just like because I even asked one of their admins, I'm like, "Yo, can I use pants grab in your Discord?" And they're like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna do the emote with Aegon," and I'm like, "Pretend the shark is a dick through through sweatpants," and they were like, "Why is this a thing?" And I was like, yeah, and I was like, I didn't know this was TFT specific, but like it's its own weird hybrid community where people follow around streamers and get this like this terminology that if you pivoted it into any other game just doesn't make sense. Like the same way people talk in the Discord of like they'll have in their name, 2020 Riven. And
Oh
people
yeah.
are like, what it's like, what does that even mean? Yeah, and it's like it just means 24/7, but we've decided that that wasn't niche enough and we had to do 2020.
The funny thing was because it's exploded last year, right? Because
Yeah,
of COVID, people came to the game, right? There was more players, and 2020 became a thing. But then the funny thing is, a lot of things that year was something happened 2020, like because like COVID 2020 kind of thing, like the earthquakes,
true.
whatever, right? And then people thought they playing this comp just this year, but then what it actually means was because low chess, right, and your match history recorded your last 20 games, right? And that's why it says 20 out of 20. It's like so funny. People didn't know what it was. That was like the
Yeah.
hilarious shit ever. And like I remember friends asking like big streamers like what 2020 meant in the chat. It was just so dumb.
Speaking of 2020, just because I want to touch on this, and shout out Rank 8, who has still not switched. Okay, wait. Was yesterday the B patch? Not to date this video. Yeah, it was. Okay. Did you see, have you, Luxinder, are you privy to Cled Bundy's match history?
Bullet Bundy. No.
So Cled Bundy is an NA streamer slash rank ladder climber. Very good dude. Super nice. Been challenger almost every set. Actually, yeah, he's been challenger since set 1. And then I think he just AFKs down to masters. But as of right now, when Shadow Blue Buff LeBlanc was a bit broken, he is 92-92 Shadow Blue Buff LeBlanc.
Jeez.
Actually, sorry, I will give him credit. and this is what I think is actually the biggest shout out. He's actually 92-92 LeBlanc. I went
Not
through his entire match history. She's never not been in it. However, there are many games she has no items. He just always played the exact same build where or the exact same comp, but sometimes LeBlanc is the carry, sometimes Lysandra, sometimes Diana, sometimes Nocturne, sometimes Katarina, and he flexed his items up till rank 3 NA. Amazing player. I even DM'd him and I was like, I can't believe you're playing LeBlanc that much. And he messaged me back and says, I like assassins. And that was it. It's like the man is committed and he hasn't played since yesterday. So I don't know if since the nerf he'll keep doing it, but
he played. But he
I
only
like,
played.
has he?
Yes, he played normals. I'm looking at his match history right now.
But the normals are from yesterday and it's him playing LeBlanc.
It is. Actually, yeah.
So I don't know if those were post-patch or pre-patch. Actually, he played in normals with a bunch of challengers. So these are probably in-houses because I noticed DQA, Becca, etc. There's no way that you'd hit those people in a normal game unless you all agreed to play together. So they were probably testing the
GVA and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, it's just nuts that to go that much in one comp. Like I only did that in one set, and it's what everyone knows me for, which was set 2 Berserkers. But that's because I think that was the perfect comp that has ever existed, and I don't know that Riot will obtain that glory again.
Do you think you can get him on the show?
Cled Bundy?
Yeah.
I know him through DMs because someone was pretending to be him in our Discord. So I messaged him and was like, "Are you in our Discord?" And he was like, "Yes, but under this account." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And I banned the guy for faking who they were. I could definitely ask him. He's a I've never heard him speak, but I know he has streamed before, and I know he's a cool dude. That's about all I know about him.
Cool. That's really awesome. I mean, like that to me, that sounds like the true embodiment of being a one trick, right? I feel like I one tricked like keepers only, like in set 4.5 because I was still new and I didn't want to learn anything else because there's so many other fundamentals I had to like really get a hold of. But like that's really cool to see somebody be dedicated to a comp but be flexible with the items and the carry to that degree.
Like, exactly. That's actually why I know you weren't around back then, but that's why I love Berserkers. I played Berserkers when it was not a thing. Like it got buffed, it got nerfed, they literally took a synergy, pretend it was just 6 skirmishers, right? They took 6 skirmishers and then they said, hey guys, when you build 6 skirmishers now, on top of the trait they're already getting, they all get 50 extra AD. They literally did that to buff the comp that I was one tricking. And I was mad because that meant everyone was going to start playing it because it was viable. Yeah. But it was the best comp I think they've ever done because right now, using skirmishers as an example, there are not many variants. There's Ironclad, there's 3 skirmishers with a bit of fill, and there's Dragon Slayer. That's really the pivots of skirmishers. Whereas when you looked at Zerkers, they had a lot of cross synergies, and I think they've captured a bit of it in set 5, especially with how they've handled Mystics, but it had the most choices based on the lobby. If you were in a mage-heavy lobby, you would go Poison Berserkers. That way people had higher cast times. If you were in a lobby where people weren't really spamming QSS or you just kind of wanted to be the annoying prick, you went Glacial Berserkers. Or if you'd go Electric Berserkers if you hit the correct Lux at a certain point. Or if everyone stacked armor and someone was doing like a pure tank build, which was more of a thing back then, you would go Desert Berserkers, which gave your team, I think, like 100% armor shred. So there was like all these different little techs, and it was a comp that I could say I'm playing Zerkers the whole set, but I played a different variation every game, and that was viable. That was my favorite thing, bar none. If they ever say we're putting Zerkers back in the same way they put Knights and Wardens and stuff like that, I will play 1,500 games of that set.
See, that's like what I love about this game and what I love about talking to other one tricks about. I mean, like when in set 4.5, like I was just playing keepers, so Lux fucking sent me to Misfit, right? And Misfit was just telling me about like all these end game pivots you could have done to keepers, like dropping down to 4, and it's just like, whoa, there's so many combinations that you can pivot into, pivot out to. It's ridiculous. It's like the learning curve of this game is so high, and I think it just keeps going. Like I don't think I don't think anyone's like really mastered the game. And then by the time you do figure out the set, it changes, which is like infinitely cool.
Yeah. And it is, even speaking of playing to different levels, I can coach my friend who's in silver, low gold, who's never hit like a high rank. I've coached him recently, and I coached him. He pivoted, as I said, and I think he took a fifth. And then he was like, you know what? I'm going to play my style. And it hurts me to watch him because his style is donkey rolling. He just rolls to 0 almost every round.
No.
And then he plays and he gets a second, and he's like, yeah, he's like, this is better. And I'm like, this. I'm like, I can't even begin to explain to you. And he'll say, I know it's not better, but it's how he wins, and it's super weird to me. I don't know if he's just the unluckiest person ever, where I'll be like, okay, we're rolling 50 gold, we need 1 jacks, and it's like, oh, that didn't come. But then he'll donkey roll all game and be like, everything is gold and I win.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I guess like it's a hard conversation, right? Of like, what is better, who's a better TFT player, and circling back to this whole conversation of like tournament versus ladder. Like, is the player who hits first, in 3 games in succession the better player, or is it, like Polt, for example, who just hits fourth every game consistently?
Yeah, and this would be kind of my question, especially to someone like Polt, because regardless of how good you are, everyone will kind of agree there are some games you are not meant to win. Like, you can go into a game and the game will have decided you are going 8th.
And so this is how I see it, right? Every
Mhm.
game you're starting at 8th place. All you're doing, every action you do is to prevent going 8th. That's what I see the game as.
Yeah.
Right.
That's I'm sure, I think you were there, Lux, but the point I'm bringing to this is the rioter who previously led our Discord, D'Artagnan. You weren't here for this, Blind, but we've done an event several times where our coaches will coach him, and it's a huge event where everyone joins in on the stream and on the voice call, asks Riot questions, learns from our coaches, stuff like that. It's a great event. But DQA, who at the time was rank 1, coached him in a platinum game, and he went 7th. And it's just a case of, if rank 1 can coach you and say, BG go next, it's a toxic mindset to think every game is BG go next and out of your control. But there are some times where you're just like, you know what? Especially back then, you're like, you know what? We're at Raptors, we're getting to Raptors, and you have 2 items or 3 items. You're like, the game put all your items on Raptors, it's a BG go next. Like, there are definitely games where, and that still exists to a point, but I think that's what Riot has been perfecting set to set, is removing some of that RNG where one guy doesn't get all 18 of his items from Krugs, and the next person has to wait like 2 full rounds later to get theirs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I really like the Armory edition for sure. It definitely gives you a lot more flexibility when it comes to the items. However, like, it's weird because I feel like every game is winnable depending on how flexible you're willing to be, right? Like, I just had a game, for example, where it's like it was just like I went straight to 6th, and then like 5 minutes later I'm making coffee. I'm like, oh, the pivot was karma. Like, like all I had to do was just pivot karma.
Well,
right?
it's one of the interesting things. I'm actually going to harass you guys to talk to DQA about this when you get him on your show. But in set 4.5, he was known as, like, people would look at his match history, kind of like Cled Bundy's, and say, oh, he's a one-trigger. He doesn't play anything else. And it's because if you looked at LOL Chess, his final board state every single game was 6 Dusk. But if you watched him play, he would be level 8 with a perfect, and I mean like perfect ranger. Well, I don't know. I can't even think of the comp, but like duelists. Like, he'd have perfect duelist setup. You'd be like, wow, this is a first. You're locked in. Kill it, DQA. He would hit level 9 and sell his entire board and pivot. And it was just because he's like, I play Dusk. Dusk is how you come first. And like, it was insane because, like, he was, to me at the time, the definition of strongest board, because his strongest board would be an entirely different comp, and he wouldn't pivot until he had to, which, if he played right, was 9. But it's like, even with that, what you'd consider like a capped board, he'd pivot because he'd just be like, I can get higher. And it's just, it's nuts to me, that level of play.
Like, and then to bring on that fact is like Piba. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. But okay, You could say the Piba comp, and I'm
Yeah.
not going to insult the guy. The guy's great. But the meme that has existed in our Discord for years is that Piba is not the best person at playing Piba.
Oh yeah, for sure. He's not. But the comp, right?
Okay, I know nothing about this. So for the
Uh,
people listening at home who know nothing about this, walk me through.
Okay.
Blind, have you heard of the comp Bill Gates?
Yes, I have heard of Bill Gates.
Okay.
It's called Piba.
It's Piba, yeah.
Piba came up with the comp in set 2, which was when he decided, I am only playing legendaries. They don't need synergies. And he would level to 8, roll it down, hit Z and Singed, put them in, and say, I win the game now. Thank you. Bye-bye. And that was Piba. And everyone played Piba. It was great, especially for several metas. Singed was toxic, literally and figuratively. And it was, everyone loved or hated it. So everyone always says, what is the Piba of this set? It wasn't until set 4, I think, that people got so removed from TFT and such a new fresh blood came in that they started calling it Bill Gates because it's the expensive 5-cost comp. But I will fight to them to the death. It is Piba. He perfected it. But he's not the best at playing it. Rank 1 NA would play Piba every game. And Piba would be like, I know he's hit very high, but he'd be like 60th at the time, also playing Piba. And you're like, dude, the comp is named after you. Please climb higher.
Oh, that kind of feels bad, right? Like someone else is playing your comp better than you.
Oh yeah, it's great. He's a great dude though. And yeah, like anytime you'll hit him in solo queue. I've hit him a lot, and if you see Piba, it's him. He's the guy, and he's super funny. He'll talk about it a lot too. Because I talked to him about that in set 5. I literally got in a game with him, and I said, "Are you playing Piba?" And he said, "Haven't found it yet," or I think he said, "If I can hit." Because legendary reroll wasn't like a thing at the beginning until people realized, oh, Teemo and Heimer are cracked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even after they nerfed Heimerdinger, he's still fucking cracks.
Yeah, exactly. But at the beginning, like the funny part is, and this is what I love too about the start of a set, is how much opinions change in a week. Like people always yell at Riot about you need to hotfix, but it's like, as an example, people a week ago, or at this point maybe 2, like Mordekaiser was trash. If you ran Mordekaiser, you were a weird one-tricker who was trying to force it. But then Mordekaiser just needed hotfixed because he was slapping everyone. And then a week ago, everyone said, oh, Teemo is the weakest 5-cost because unless you have 5 or 7 Hellions, why would you put him in? Why would you sacrifice HP? And now everyone is going this 5-cost comp, putting Teemos in, and guess what? He's nuking teams. It's like it's literally a case of like trial and error can take a week, and it can take someone brute forcing their face into something. But like once the meta gets like it, and it's different too because when some comps, I can't think of the example I used to give, but there was a comp that became very meta, and then another comp became meta only because it beat that comp. And then once that comp fell out of meta, the original comp that it beat wasn't played because people in their mind thought it was trash. And then some pros started playing it, being like, oh, the comp that counters this isn't played anymore. And it came back into meta. It's like, it's literally, you can enter these full circle metas of like looking in your lobby and being like, which is kind of what set 5 has helped with is, it's less about your comp and more about your side synergies of, am I in a lobby with 2 Karmas and 2 Vel'Kozes? You bet your ass I'm putting in 4 Mystic. Whereas like other lobbies, if you were to play the exact same comp and put in 4 Mystic, you're up against 5 Draven players and you just want to kill yourself.
No, they'll kill you before you can decide that.
Yes, exactly.
It's like, what do I do here? You're already dead. Get fucked. Yeah, it's like, I love how this set is like done, where it's like you have like vanguards, but for your whole like a mystic synergy. You know what I mean? Where it's not just your front line; it's a whole team kind of thing. And it's like such a small synergy where it's like you can just fit it in without sacrificing a lot. And
so,
that's why.
Speaking of that, only because Lux, have you been playing since set 1?
Yes, but I haven't played like a lot of games, right?
Okay. There's a set 1 comp I want to talk about that was broken and funny, and they learned a lot from it. Current Leona, like Knights, which was what it was in set 1, they reworked them 3 times in set 1 because the synergy was either broken or useless.
Wasn't damage reduction at the start?
So no. sorry, yes, but it was just straight damage blocked. So the
Oh, yeah.
original knights were
Mm.
what Leona 2 is today, where if you had 6 knights, it was something like 50 or 60 damage blocked per ability, per auto, per everything. And there was a knight spat. So a common build at the time that I ran a heckload of was you would just re-roll the knights, get them all golden, which at the time Darius had his spin, so he just healed up over and over again. And then
Yeah.
you got Draven, so you could run Imperial 2, where either
Yeah.
Darius or Draven was getting a 50% damage boost every round. And then you gave Draven a knight spat. Draven became an unkillable, annoying god. Like, picture the Draven in this current set and now make him block 60 damage in auto. It was just
Oh,
obnoxious.
that's so
especially
gross.
especially because in set 1 there was a lot less Draven. Like, before the Pantheon Kaisa even got released, Draven was kind of the one-shot meta of set 1. Like, he was the guy who was going to one-tap some units. If he was the unit and he couldn't get one-tapped, it's like there was no ASOL to clear the board. You were just stuck.
There was an ASOL though, but like he wasn't as oppressive as Set.
Oh, actually, you're right. I forgot that became a thing. Yeah, he became a thing eventually. Wild shapeshifters and wild
Shape
dragons was a comp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shape Dragon
Um,
was fucking crazy.
that didn't come till later though. I feel like
Yeah. I
you're
played
definitely right. I remember dragons were broken, but I feel like it was always Shyvana, which for the people new to TFT or blind in this example, dragons was a bonus where if you had 2 of them, i.e. Shyvana and Asol, they both got a free declaw, which at the time was
no.
originally like 99% magic reduction.
100%. No, it released with 100% reduction.
Oh,
they
right, it was
make
100%,
damage. So
and then it
basically,
got nerfed to 75.
yeah, it's like it's fucking dumb. It's like the comp you play, you can't fight your own comp. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah, if 2 people played dragons, it would end with Shyvana and Asol shooting each other, doing no damage, tying in overtime, which at the time didn't exist. Overtime was a later addition to TFT. If you
yeah,
were
that
to
was,
go into the equivalent of overtime, you just both lost.
yeah,
Yeah. No, I mean, I was talking to Dweller the other day, who was telling me about set 1. He was showing me some items, like I think what is like Cursed Blade or something.
Oh, Cursed Blade
Like,
was the famous one that everyone wants back, where it lowered the people's star level.
yeah, like I played a little bit of set 1 because when it came out, I was like, oh, let's play, right? But I didn't get
Yeah.
like super into it, right? But like coming from now having gone into TFT at set 4.5, like looking at set 1, it's just kind of like, what were they thinking?
The most famous comp that only existed for a little bit was Gunslingers. Was, I want to say, pretty much in meta all set. Like, I can't think of too many times where there wasn't one guy going Gunslingers, which were essentially blasters. But there was a very famous video, because at the time the 2 content creators for TFT were Skara and Disguised Toast.
Yeah.
And Disguised Toast had heard of and played it, and he was like, I heard of a comp where you donkey roll all game. He's like, you never go above 10 gold. If you hit 10 gold, you failed. And he tried it on stream. It became a video, and he took first. You just donkey rolled all game, and you only bought Gunslingers. And he did it. He came first, and that was the meta for a while, which was awful. Because if you thought you were contested before, imagine everyone rolling to 0 every single round.
Everyone donkeying for your comp. Oh,
like, you'd be at Krugs and count and be like, every Tristana is out of the pool. It's like, I didn't think it was possible for every one of a 1 cost to be out of the pool, but we did it.
Wow. That's
that's like
like
crazy.
this is what's so interesting about this game is like you're to touch back on what you were mentioning before, like the echo chamber of this game, especially like around the community, is so large, which creates like these really amazing like the OCE comp names, like all these memes, like pants grabs, like it births such amazing things. At the same time, though, I feel like I could probably count it on my hand. Like, there's only a handful of people who I know who are actually like number crunching, who are actually doing like proper theory crafting and trying to find out like what is actually the most viable options to go for.
That's what I do in the Discord a bit. I've admitted to people that I did this to get a quote nerd to argue with me, but I said in the Discord as an example, when the B patch hit, I said, hey, is Zig's static shiv dead? The attack speed got nerfed. And then like less than 10 minutes later, someone replied to me and said, here's the math. Assuming an average fight is 10 seconds or whatever amount of time Ziggs would normally in a fight get 21 autos. Now he gets 19 autos. It's not a dead item. And I was like, perfect. I'm glad I said a like direct statement as if it was fact, and you corrected me, giving me the answer I needed. So it's like he just told me, he's like, yeah, it's not dead. I was like, oh, cool. But it's like because he showed his math and did the work I didn't want to do, I'm like, nice. I can trust this.
Yeah, I actually saw that. That's one of the few people that I can actually count on my hand. But,
yeah, and it's interesting too because like the TFT meta does heavily evolve each set, just in the sense of us talking about set one comps. I wanted to talk about this. The most notorious comp a lot of people bring up is Kassassin, which the reason it was so notorious.
I love
the
that.
reason
That was my
The
comp.
reason it was notorious, though, was you needed a spatula. If you didn't have a spatula, you couldn't run the comp, which at the time, the first carousel had a spatula. I want to say originally it was guaranteed. So what that meant is everyone who wanted to play Kassassin was trying to play the weakest board possible, if not no board. Like the meta eventually went from people buying as many Cassidans as they could up to that point to people buying nothing because they actually wanted to be 40 gold, no HP. If they risked a win, they weren't the first two picks because there were always two people playing no units. And then it's just which side of the carousel was the spatula on. If it wasn't on your side, FF, go next, try the next game. But if you hit that spatula and you were going Kassassin, congrats, you're top one. The reason I think the comp was actually so good was like not why that comp was strong, but the person who hit Kassassin went first. But the thing is, everyone who didn't go Kassassin could top four. It was actually a great meta until Pantheon's release, which kind of shifted the whole meta of so many comps could top four and squeak their way in. Rengar carry, Akali carry, Asol carry. Like you could play for second reasonably. But the moment you lost that spat, if you were like, oh, I'm going to commit, you're out. There's three Kassassin players bought for. One takes first, undeniably, and everyone else fights for second, third, and fourth.
Huh. That's really interesting.
It was interesting because like Shadow Blue Bluff LeBlanc is a different beast because it's a very good comp to get you to level 8, level 9. And then it came down to what are your pivots? Can you actually play? Are you just going to slow roll for the gold LeBlanc? How are you coming in first? Like there's all these ways you could do it, but it didn't hold your hand the whole way. Whereas Kassassin was like, people can say, oh, LeBlanc is overpowered, but it wasn't the number one comp. Kassassin was the number one comp. If you hit that, there was no board that I think could beat it. At least for several patches, if not most of set one.
Yeah, because Void is such a busted trait.
Yeah, like, it was literally a giant unit who jumped into your backline. Every auto attack, I think, stole mana and gave him a shield from that mana, and it was true damage. And he just hit insanely hard. So he was any unit he was touching would never cast, and you gave him, I think, a Ginsu's, so he just went faster and faster until it was him versus 9 units, and he 1v9.
Yeah, and then there's also back then with Shurgen, it's like percentage mana as well, rather than just straight up mana. That shit was busted. Like 8%, I think, per Shurgen?
Yeah, that only changed with what, set 5? Or set 4? That changed with set 4.
Set 3, I think. It changed to an actual number. Oh no, set 4 changed. Set 4 is an actual number. Set 3 was still percentage.
Set 4 was when it changed because before everyone could tell you the math of what is better, and then with set 4, it kind of became like, okay, how many autos? And people like that's when Bacon Supreme started doing those spreadsheets where it's like, okay, if you want them to ult 3 times, you need blue buff or Shojin, and he'd like list which was better.
Yeah, like now it's just a math with order, and then enlighten was a thing, and then they calculate enlighten mana gains. So it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that was my favorite. When he started making the spreadsheet for that, he said, "I'm not including enlightened," and everyone was like, "Why not?" And he's like, oh, "I guess I will." Like, the community kind of bullied him to do it.
Dude, that was a lot of work. Like no joke, it was a lot of work. Just like small.
The math on every single unit. And then the enlightened ones being slightly different based on how many enlightened units you were running. It's like, oh, I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, that's wild to think about, like all the things that have been in sets before. I mean, I had a friend who sent me this video. I don't even know what set it's from. But it's like it's Zed who can duplicate
Set
into
2.
another unit, set 2 with
Yeah.
redemptions, and I'm just watching like him like this Zed comp fight another Zed comp, and the whole board gets filled with Zeds. And I'm like,
Yeah, that was one of the most fun but convoluted origins that they've ever done. Well, not convoluted, but messy, because summoners could all create summons, and the more summoners you had, I think the more HP their summons had. I can't remember exactly. But the issue with it was everyone's board became so full of units that you couldn't tell who was winning or losing, or who was even your units at times. And that was actually the spawn of PIBA comps, was finding the perfect Zed build and spamming him.
interesting. So like, do you think like I'm a little conflicted here because when I think about TFT, like
Mhm.
there's a level of fun and balance that doesn't seem to mix. You know what I mean? Like these comps that are just like outrageous are extremely fun to play. But then it also begs the question of like how balanced is this for the other person that has to witness the whole board getting filled with my Zeds?
Well, no, but the thing was he was also playing Zed, so the board was filled with his as well. um, but no, I get what you mean. There's definitely like Fortune. I think was probably one of the biggest. I don't want to say controversies because I think everyone loved Fortune to an extent. Although no, I can't say that. There's controversy there. There was some people who hated the guy who would lose all early game, finally get his one win, and suddenly he's got Mage Swain, 2 Force of
Yeah,
Natures.
he comes back
Um,
with
yeah.
gold
Wait,
Mage Swain. And you're like,
wait.
Yeah.
Who are you talking about here? You guys talking about me or some shit? What the fuck? Weird, bro.
but
any Fortune player.
that's what I think is the best
Oh no.
controversial one, because like
Oh no. I cut out.
has Lux
BG.
lost this again?
I can hear him.
I hear him too, but I don't think he hears us.
Lux, you there?
He's definitely not. I'm gonna go grab a beer because I was looking for a good segue to grab a beer.
It's
Anyway.
his Disneyland. It's his Disneyland internet.
True. Okay, beer back. I'll get that beer. I get the beer. You get Lux. Okay, he's rejoining, I assume.
No, I think we're just gonna remake. Let me see here.
Yep. And that whole luck versus not luck.
Yeah.
Just to kind of go over. So I think Fortune was when they nailed it. I think Fortune and I think Draconic is also a good evolution on that, where Draconic has poor, like it can synergize well with some other traits, but none of the Draconic units synergize with each other. So it's kind of this comp of like you can play it, but you have to play a lot of other good stuff. Fortune was a great combination with some controversies. As you go back, in set 3, it was Space Pirates, which at low volumes, they only got money based on the units they killed. Like if a Space Pirate killed that unit, you got a gold. If it didn't get the finishing blow, no gold. And then if you got 4 Space Pirates, every kill they got had a chance of giving you items, which it was kind of a high roll comp. You had to high roll into, or like you couldn't play it from behind. And then in set 1 was the last time they did something like this, which was also pirates. Every round you had pirates in, you got anywhere from 0 to 4 gold, which kind of felt awful to go collect your treasure, and it had a boot in it, and that was it. It was just like you got a boot this turn, and you're like, fuck. And if you got a boot 3 turns in a row, you're like, fuck am I doing? This synergy is awful. And then the only real gambling that was in set 2, because I actually pulled it up because I couldn't remember that there was one. There wasn't one. The only thing that was kind of what?
I don't think there was. That's all I was thinking.
No, there wasn't. But the interesting thing was, I don't know if you knew this. Blind, do you know much about set 2 with Lux and Kiana?
Not even a drop.
Okay, so the cool thing about set 2 that I thought was neat, but was it super balanced? Who knows? There were 4 types of maps you could hit, kind of like the galaxies of set 3, and you knew the moment the map started. So as an example, if you hit a wind map, everyone had wind tiles. And whatever unit you put on a wind tile got extra dodge, but it took up an item slot.
Can I get Anna? So the 4 maps are like elemental dragons of Summoner's Rift, just in case it didn't like.
Oh yeah. Was it actually added? I think it was done the same
Yes.
season that
Yes.
Elemental Dragons became a
Yes.
thing, right?
That's why Elementals was that thing. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
That's why it was like that. Yeah.
Gotcha. So yeah, there was fire for attack damage, armor for health, or sorry, not armor, earth. Wind was air, and water was starting with more mana. The interesting thing being about a mountain, I think it was just starting mana.
Maybe.
The interesting thing about starting on a mountain map was it was extra health every round, but it added up. So if you bought a level 1 unit you were keeping in all game, you would just leave him on that tile because every round he would have like an extra 200 health over and over and over again. So if you played a reroll comp, you might have a unit that was hugely busted on one map. But the interesting thing was Kiana was one of her traits was adaptive. So all of the maps we just named had a trait like mountain. So if you were playing on a mountain map, Kiana was mountain. But if you were playing on a water map, she was water. So it actually changed your build and your comp around this 3 cost and what trait they had. And then the thing that was kind of on top of that, which was Lux. Lux was a 7 cost unit with the rolling odds of a 5 cost. She worked a bit like Chosen in that she was worth 2 of a trait. But the biggest part that confused everyone who was new to the game and couldn't figure this out, like I still remember at the end of set people discovering this, there was 1 Lux for almost every trait. I think there was 10 Luxes. Yeah, I'm looking. There's at least 9, maybe 10. Yeah, it's 10. If someone bought Shadow Lux, she was out of the pool. You could never hit Shadow Lux. There was only 1 of each type. So that was like, that made such an aggressive meta of like wanting to go 7, wanting to go 8 and roll, because if you're playing electric and you get electric Lux, your comp does over 200% more damage. But if you don't hit that electric Lux, your comp's kind of meandering.
Yeah. And
Yeah, that's crazy.
Another thing, like the maps is like with Kiana, you can hit traits and synergy so much faster. All right. It's like, I remember hitting 2, is it Earth?
Mountain was the big one, which was a random ally gains a 1500 health shield.
Yeah, it's like huge.
Yeah, like, the big one too that a lot of people memed and someone tried to hit in a tournament was Woodland was, I also think, one of the best traits they've ever done, which was a bunch of 1 and 2 costs with the trait of at the start of combat, a random Woodland champion duplicates. So you had to kind of itemize them all. One of them would duplicate, and it was the definition of like strongest board early. If you had Woodland early, you had a strong board. But the kicker that made it fun was if you hit Woodland Lux, i.e. you ran these all the way till 5 costs, instead Woodlands duplicated all of them. So including Lux herself, all 5 of your units would duplicate. And it was just an unstoppable board of units.
Yeah, set 2 loved adding more units into the game, onto the board.
Oh yeah, between Summoners, Woodland,
Zed.
I think those were the...
Zed is
he was a summoner. I think the difference was all the summoners had a bit of that, and they all fit in extra comps.
Yeah.
See, I'm curious what metrics the Riot team is looking at to, like, how to analyze how their game is performing. You know what I mean? Because like, there's clearly reiterations of this gamble mechanic, like Fortunes, right? And now we have Draconics, which is like
gambling and gambling.
Yeah, gambling. Oh, it's Inception for gambling. It's perfect. Who wouldn't love it, right?
Yeah.
And it's. I'm really interested in like what they're focusing on, because take like Blue Buff LeBlanc for example, or Shadow Blue Buff, whatever you want to call it, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't think that was busted. I just think it was incredibly unfun to lose to. And like even still, like it's. Sorry, go ahead.
It's not busted, but it's like rather unfair and unfun to play against, right? It's like you can't position for it, but there's 6 other people you had position for. Like you can't just position for that one dude. You know what I mean? Which sucks, right?
Well, and it was more the mid game that it was an issue.
Yeah, and like late game, it's fine because just so many units, and she just can't shoot through a lot of it unless she like high rolls, right?
Well, and she would sometimes double shoot 1, which was like, I'm glad they fixed that with the hot fix, because it always felt crap when LeBlanc had 3 people in front of her and she double tapped 1, and you were like, why? It says you target 2 people. Why are you hitting 1 guy twice? Like, The whole point is you stun people. I don't want it to be on the same guy.
Yeah, that was kind of like
Right.
weird.
Right. But if you looked at like, I want to say the rankings, right? Like it was never like a straight to first comp. Like sure, it was strong. It placed like top 4, right? But there are stronger comps against it, right? So
Yeah,
I'm
that's
curious,
it.
like what Riot is looking at, like, okay, do we actually pull this because it's unfun, or do we pull it because XYZ? Right? I don't know the answers. I'm just trying to like.
That's true, because all the people who hated it would point to Cled Bundy's account and say rank 3 NA only plays it. But on the flip side, it's like, well, but he's got the skill set where he can almost one trick anything to that tier. But yes, it does point to it being overpowering, overbearing, especially in the right hands.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying. There's definitely Riot has to make a decision sometimes of which actually, funny enough, in set 1, they redid an entire synergy, or I don't remember if they redid it or they just killed it because it was unfun, which was demons, which
Oh,
was
that was
it was the most. So basically, I told you that Kassadin would steal your mana with his auto attacks.
Right.
Demons was every demon unit steals mana.
Okay.
And it would eventually become where, like, I think the higher the trait, the more mana they stole, and some
they
of them
did
were
damage to you.
assassins.
Yeah.
Yeah, it ended. Yeah, they did extra damage while stealing that mana. So it was what Riot said was the least fun comp to play against, because even if you felt like you never feel more useless in TFT than when you make a team and none of them can ult.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're all just auto attacking. Like this is the feels bad moment of like,
Yep.
like I think in set 1 you could have hit a gold 5 cost and lost if demons
Yeah.
were in meta.
Yeah. Another thing was like you play double Elises, right? You hit them to you get 6 Elises, you don't roll anymore. You play 2 of them. That's how fucking dumb that comp is.
True.
Right? And because when she split into 2 or something, I can't remember. She summoned 2 spiderlings, and those spiderlings also mana reave. So it was like the dumbest comp. It was so fun to play though. That's the problem.
I'm pulling up a comp because this was the worst comp that everyone played for a while. This was kind of the mage Swain of set 1 in my mind was Demon Volibear, which was Volibear had his lightning claws from League, where every auto attack he did chain lightning through units. But
Right.
the kicker was it applied effects. So if you made him a
Oh.
demon, he mana zapped every unit he hit, and it was like 6 units. So you would build Volibear to be this attack speed gold brawler machine, and he would deny the entire team from ever doing anything, and it felt so bad. Oh, and you gave him an item that disarmed people, so they couldn't even auto attack back, and it applied to everyone as well.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting when they did that. What's that item called? Swordbreak, I think. Is that the one?
Swordbreaker was the disarm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was Swordbreaker. There was Hush that would silence people for like X amount of seconds, and then there was
Swordbreak.
the shrink.
Blade.
Yes, the one that brought them down a star level.
Yeah, that shit was so funny though.
It was, especially because it could bring them down to 0.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's what I mean, right? Like there's definitely a fine line of like things that are like, do we make TFT a game of fun, or do we make TFT a competitive game, right? Like there's a level of like chess where it's like I see the parallels of TFT and chess so strongly. I mean, like there's such a huge level of knowledge that you need to know before you can even play the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. TFT is the same way. It's like there's so much you need to know before you can even play, right? However, the thing about chess is like once you get over that hump, for the most part, like there's no surprises. It's either you get outplay or you outplay the other person, right? Right now, like I feel like set 5 is at this point where like there's a good level of balance where it's like there's not too much that's really going to surprise you, other than like I don't know, you roll up on someone and he has like gold star everything, and you're like, oh, okay, right? But for the most part, it's like it's what you expect, right?
True.
I think items like like items like Hush and the one that reduces your
Swordbreaker.
level.
Oh, Curseblade.
Yeah.
No,
like
no. That's
that.
great. Curseblade, sorry.
Curseblade. Yeah.
Curseblade, yeah.
Yeah, like that just kind of creates this level of like this is no longer balanced, but it's fun as hell.
Oh yeah, one of the most fun comps that a lot of people played at the time was Yordles gave dodge, which is elves in Dota. Like that's a common mechanic, but again, similar to demons, everyone found it an unfun mechanic. Like you had to build RFC on your carries, or your attacks would miss. I think it was like 55 or 80% of the time.
Yeah, I
Like
think
if
Loa
you,
sent me that.
It
Yeah.
was
yeah,
55 and 80.
yeah, it was 80 if you hit the chase trait, which took a
Yeah.
spat. But the
Yeah.
big thing people ran was they would run Yordles plus dragons, and then they'd Yordle spat Shyvana, which did similar to the Hellion spat of today, where it made her super tiny, which was hilarious. But so you'd have this tiny dragon with 80% dodge, a burn dot, and 90% magic resist, or it was probably 75% at the time. And that was before counting her other 2 items. So like it was such an unfun thing, and you'd pray that your cursed blade would proc to bring her down in the star level. But yeah, it's like all these. I think the meta right now, like you said, nothing will surprise you. My favorite thing I've been doing is refreshing the meta comps tab that everyone uses, like the one by Rainbrath, who updates with like these are the best comps, these are the worst comps, because I love it, because I refresh it every 2 days and it'll be like, hey, reroll Leona, great comp. Next day, it's off the sheet. It's garbage. Don't play it. Today, I just refreshed, back on the sheet. Leona reroll, good to go. And it's just like, it's just what the community is doing. And it's like Karma, as an example, was, I think, the number 1 comp for most of it. She hasn't been nerfed, but she's now number 4. And even then, a lot of players would argue with you, she's probably worse, because like Karma is, like some people say, oh, it's a top 4 comp, or it's like, oh, you need to gold her, and it's like, well, okay, gold a 4 cost, come on.
Yeah.
It's just it's interesting how the meta is. I love the startup
Like-
sets. It's always the most interesting.
Another thing is like a lot of people don't know how to cap boards. They don't know what a cap karma
True.
board is like, right?
Yeah.
Like I love karma, and Nestor fucking shits on karma. It's like, no, it's not good. But then every single time I play karma, I'll place higher than him.
Yeah, there's such different types of cap boards, and that's what when I think TFT is at its best is when things like the Mystic trait exist that go 2, 3, 4. Like you're not committing your house to play one more Mystic, because like you know, in other sets where it's like 3, 6, 9, it's like those traits. It's like you're either all in or you're not. But the 2, 3, 4 traits feel so much better. Not that I think they should do that with every trait, because then we'll enter a hybrid world that I don't want to math out. But
too much maxing.
Exactly. But I think there is something to be said for those comps where your highest trait is 4 and everything else is 2s all the way down the board. Like it's such an interesting innovation that's kind of that lets players actually show skill expression.
Yeah. I feel like another one
sure.
is like I feel like the 2, 3, 4s should be the defensive traits. For instance, your like Ironclad and your Mystics, right? I feel like 4 Ironclad could be a thing because of Spat. I feel like I kind of want that to be a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they've talked about the fact that we're getting chase traits soon. I actually hope Ironclad Spat isn't a chase trait, only on the sake of I don't want to say it's oppressive, but like it
strong.
would suck. It's strong and such a huge amount, even with just 3, that I think it would feel bad for you as the player to build a Draven comp, as an example, not build a Last Whisper, and then get to the top 2, and the other guy hits an Ironclad spat, pivots half his board, and you can't kill a unit.
Yeah.
No, but then that kind of just counts to like a Playerdiff, no?
True. That's true.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like that means you should like that's just difference in player then, right? For instance, I never feel like that this set, right? I don't think that will be a problem purely because there's other units that can hold Last Whisper for you. So your main character can run 3 items.
That's true.
And your other units can run a Last Whisper, right?
Yeah, I actually expect the meta to shift, or not the meta to shift, but the itemizations to shift a lot once even Aphelios can crit on that spell. Because that spell, the fact that it can't crit, like someone joked about it today where they were like, I built Last Whisper on Aphelios. How stupid am I? He can't apply it with his spell because it can't crit. But like once that changes, if Aphelios crits 6 people, 5 people, and suddenly they're all Last Whispered, that's pretty big.
EBT, holy shit.
Yeah, like that'll change his build
Oh
potentially,
no.
and suddenly Knights, like 4 Knight Kale would probably fall out of favor because 4 Knights is suddenly not good or well, I guess it's more Ironclad is the
It's
issue, but like,
Ironclad, not Knights yet,
yeah,
because
but
Knights don't do much.
it's true, which will really just end up killing the skirmisher comp even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of itemizations that just hasn't been explored yet. Like I think it was you who asked about Shadow Locket, right? I like Shadow Locket's really interesting because I feel like it's unexplored. There's not a lot of people using it. A lot of people are dismissing it. But I feel like in certain scenarios, like Shadow Locket might be it might be the play in a comp that we don't know about. Like take a look at like Aegon Sharpshooters. Like no one really liked Locket before, and then he just starts building Lockets, and it's like, oh, okay,
It's
well,
true. My
this is kind of
favorite
broken.
part was Mort
That's
Dog actually taught me that comp because I was playing Spirit Sharpshooters and I took a bot 4 and I was like, I don't get how this is good. And Mort Dog just said, how many lockets did you have? And I was like, I had one. And he's like, well, there's your problem. And the next game I built 3 lockets, prioritized them above everything, came first, and I was like, what the hell?
Yeah,
Why is this the difference?
Can I just add something?
Yeah.
Aegon wasn't the one who invented Spirit Sharpshooters, which Locker Sharpshooters.
Okay.
Locker Sharpshooters was a thing during Warwick, right? There's 3 comps that counted Warwick, right? It's Sharpshooters, like 6 sharps, Akali, and Kindred carry, right? Akali and Kindred is because they just burst out Warwick before he can do anything. Spear Sharpshooters is the same concept, right? And that's the patch where they buff Locket, Shiv, and I think Chalice and Zeke's, right? So all of the bot played items were buffed. And then so people realized, why the fuck am I playing like IE fucking Last Whisper when I just play 6 Zeke's on my sharpshooters, 6 Chalices, or like 6 Lockets, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that became a thing. And that was a Locket sharpshooter thing. And that's when it's like, I have no frontline, so I'm just going to buff and shield all my backline with like 900 shield. I think that's what it was with the 3-star teamer.
Yeah. Before it got nerfed. I think it was.
That was a thing. And I was like, okay. You know what I mean? To counter the Shiv, you fucking play something that's even more like dumb. That was like super funny. But yeah. That's
no,
where
thanks for the correction. Yeah.
like that's one thing people didn't understand or didn't know about is because of that. Yeah, I just want to add that in. Because
That's fair.
yeah, like I follow meta a lot because I don't see myself as an innovator. I see myself as a meta player. Like I understand the meta and I play to the meta. Where I innovate is how I cap my boards, right? I think that's something else I want to add, but I kind of forgot.
See, my board looks like an innovation because I failed to cap the board. So you'd look at it and be like, what an innovation. And I would probably bullshit my way through the reason it's good. But in reality, you'd be like, you know you're supposed to have a Darius in there, right? And I'd be like, but this unit's cool.
Yeah, it's like how you get away with like being an art student, just like make something and teacher asks you questions, just bullshit your way out.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. All right, so I promise Lux I wouldn't let this recording go to like 3 hours just for the sake of his editing. So let's start to wrap up here. Nyar, you are the owner of the official TFT Discord. You're also a good friend and also a competitor, hitting masters every set. In your opinion, how do you think we push the TFT community /game/competitive scene forward? What do you think needs to happen for us to really hit that unlock where TFT is one of those games at the top of the top?
It's tough because I think one of the first things that has to happen, and I don't want to point fingers because I think Riot has done like I don't know if I'm just an optimist, but I think Riot has done a good job of it. I think set 3 to set 4 was a significant leap in the quality of the content where people had complaints like TFT as we've talked about is such a new game. In set 3, the person who was in control of the camera was, I think, public enemy number 1. If the most important part of the game was hitting level 8 and rolling down, you'd be watching a guy, he'd hit level 8, and they'd pivot to someone else's board right as he was about to roll down. And everyone lost their minds. So I think that was the first improvement I screamed at them to make, and so did everyone. Set 4, huge improvements. You'll still have people complain about it, but it was huge. I think the next step, honestly, is just to grow the game, which it's difficult to say what they need to do there, but the bigger the community gets, the more people watch esports, the bigger the prize pool gets, the bigger the player base you get. Like in the sense of the pros. Because like right now, people like Disguised Toast, which is funny, every time I've mentioned a set one comp, I did a quick Google to make sure I wasn't going crazy, and every video that came up was Toast or Scara. He obviously pivoted to Among Us. It's where the money was this year. Good for him. But if the prize pool of TFT was suddenly huge and he had a chance, or other players had a chance, like that, you have a lot of pros who pivot off of TFT because I think they see that prize pool of like, I think this year 45K for first kind of thing, and it's like, am I really going to get that, or should I devote my time to a tournament that has a lot of little prize pools and I maybe make that up? So I think honestly at this point it's just grow TFT as a whole. Like just focus on improving the game, the marketing. Like Korean marketing is always amazing for TFT with the like Dudadunga and all those the meme videos they make that catch fire for a while. The cinematic for set 5 was like, even set 4 had a cinematic, which was a huge step up as well, of like just incorporating it, getting it in the league client, which hits the most eyes. I think that's really just, they have to keep pushing forward with that. I wish I could say a specific of like they need to do X, Y, Z.
Okay.
Like the most obvious answer is more money, but like
I feel like the most obvious answer is a spectator mode, so we can actually cast games,
which we know is coming. As long as nothing is changed or delayed, it's coming in 5.5, which is huge. Like as soon as that gets released, I'm gonna want casters for the Discord. We might even get some people who cast every weekly tournament, because it'll give them not only like depending on where we're at, if we have sponsored tournaments, they'd get paid. If we don't have sponsored tournaments, they'd be able to get exposure as casters, build up their resume. Like that's what Titan Toby was doing for a long while with us, and Tian, he wants to cast our upcoming tournament. So I think there's so much room to grow as a spectator sport, and I think as that happens and continues, like then you go the league route where you can. I think they originally did it where it's sold. I don't know if it still is, but like, you can pay to be like, I bought the pass so I can only watch top lane and I don't need to look at the other lanes. So in the same way, people from France can buy the pass and watch the 2 French players or 3 French players and just stare at their board and cheer for their homegrown talent. Like they don't want to, they don't care to pivot to see what DQA is rolling down for. They're like, no, I'm watching ZDD and I'm only watching ZDD.
Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, that's what I mean. It's like the game needs to like have a way to monetize itself.
Yeah, like I'm all for more ways to monetize. Like I am what I think TFT would call a whale, in that I have a ton of little legends, because it's just like, I like the Fury Horn. I need all the Fury Horn. Or like, exclusive bonks? Yes, I will drop the hundreds of dollars for the exclusive bonks that I don't know if I still even have equipped. It just, it is, the more monetization, the better. I know we recently found out they weren't, like, someone had said they weren't doing great for it, but it was kind of countered by Riot that they were actually, like, they were monetizing very well. The player base is quite big and healthy. I think a lot of it is staying the course and continuing to grow.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was actually. Go ahead, Lux. Go ahead.
I was wondering, one probably was like that wasn't like the best monetized. I felt like they could do more, but at the same time, it's like, they're doing pretty well.
It's like, difficult because outside of little legends and maps, the only thing you have to monetize, and booms, which they've done now, the only thing you have to monetize besides that would be esports, because it's like you can't introduce a pay-to-win mechanic. Like at best, you could introduce another announcer. Is there even? Actually, I'm trying to think. Nothing is announced in TFT, is it? There's no announcer. No, I just realized.
No announcer.
Because I was going to say, they've never even done that with normal league, because people have cried for that from Dota, where it's like, let us have Rick and Morty, let us have the Darkest Dungeon guy, Wayne June, let us have, and it's like, I think Riot knows what makes them the most money, and they don't look at like, where can we nickel and dime you? They just look at where can we get the bulk profit.
Right. Yeah, KDA.
KDA Fury Horn, nightmare
KDA
money.
Tengu. Oh.
Yeah.
That was not it.
Well, actually, I don't know how much I should be talking about this. So let me know now if I should shut up or we just cut this out. But I don't know if you took a look into the event staff.
I'm always in there, man. I see every message on the Discord. I've seen if it's been said on the Discord, I have seen it, which I
Yeah.
recognize is terrifying.
It
I
is
I actually kind of want to know how many messages there are, but I've seen them all.
Omnipotent. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So we're talking about like to monetize and like find us sponsorships and stuff. Like there's a good chance we might have to make that pivot of like getting casters and actually casting the tournaments, right? Like it could be that to really push this forward, like communities just have to start building the scene without Riot for them to catch on.
I honestly think that's what Liquid did originally. Like I think they were running their own tournaments. Same with Giant Slayer before Riot incorporated with them, or like kind of had them host the Worlds tournaments because it's just hey, you've been doing tournaments and you're big enough. It's similar to why we got one, and I think it is the pivot. Like I've kind of put that to our event leader now. Now that we're not Riot based, like prior, I don't think I could say this tournament brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends without Riot having an issue with that.
Right.
Whereas now it's like the user base won't mind if a name is thrown in if it means a bigger prize pool and like maybe some of the staff get paid some kickback and they still get to play TFT. We're not going to suddenly say you got to play Raid Shadow Legends to get your X.
Yeah.
For sure, for sure. Okay, well, I think that's great for a first episode. I mean, you guys think we're good to sign off here?
The only thing I kind of want to tease June.
Go for it. Let's go.
So for anyone who's listened this long, and first of all, thank you for doing so. It is appreciated. We want to grow this podcast. We want to get bigger and better members. We want to get more dog on. We want to yell Playerdiff at other people. The big thing the big thing I'll tease, so to speak, is we discovered somehow that the TFT Discord was created the day TFT launched, which I have no idea how that lined up. There's no way that was intentional. I'll have to ask Floki about that because he's the original founder of the Discord. But since June 26th is the official day, we're trying to create a big community event that day. I'm trying to get as many people involved. We've already got Aegon involved. We've got DQA. We've got Becca. I'm pretty sure we've got Mort Dog. We've got D'Artagnan. We're reaching out to other people. But we're going to try to host a big tournament, big prize pool. I think we're already at 500, going higher if I can. And we're going to try to get, there's going to be a quiz. That's what we're trying to get the other people involved in. Like, they're going to kind of ask some quiz questions, which is also why I really want to get Mort Dog in, because I know other people will ask questions people know, like, in set one, what were this person's origins or stuff like that. But I want Mort Dog to ask, like, what champion in TFT had the highest attack speed ever? And just something where people are like, how do I Google this? So we're trying to create that. It'll be prizing throughout the day, a little quiz for everyone, big tournament, trying to get riders involved in the tournament as well, but it's harder to get them to agree to kind of a whole day thing. I did message Mort Dog about this and said, hey, you want to play? And he said, I'm going to do my Saturday stream, and after that, we'll see where I go. But yeah, we're planning that for the community. It's still in the very early stages. We only started talking about it last week, and I don't want to loop people in. Like, it's kind of awkward to ask someone, hey, in 2 months' time, can you be a part of this event? Especially when it's, for some of these people, it's just, hey, send a Discord message. But we're trying to get a hold of people, trying to reach out appropriately timed and trying to find sponsors to get that prize pool even higher. But yeah, that and more coming for the Discord soon.
Amazing. And for the 5 people who are listening to this who are not a part of the Discord server, how do they join?
Discord.gg/teamfighttactics. Official
Amazing.
link, baby.
And if they want to come and learn some shit from you, where can they find you on Twitter and Twitch?
They would find me at Nyarlathresh. Good luck spelling that. Join the Discord to find out how.
I'll put that up there.
Thank you. Yeah,
we'll put the description.
Okay. Yeah, that's my Twitter and my Twitch. And if you ever join the Discord, I'm currently the God King of it. I swear it's not an ego thing. We just pull from every relevant set, and it felt better to be the God King. Maybe Eternal would have been sweet as well, actually, but God King felt the most appropriate when there's literally 2 admins and Darius versus Garen. It couldn't have lined up better this set.
Yeah, that makes sense. And last question, I think, where did your name come from?
So for a long time, H.P. Lovecraft, famous author, wrote a book, and one of the
Oh
gods in it
no!
is
Did he leave? Did he get
what?
disconnected?
Did who get
No,
disconnected?
I'm here. You got disconnected with your Disneyland
I know.
internet.
Oh,
Wait, can Lux not hear me?
I guess I'll find out.
Lux,
I guess I'll find out when I edit the video what
Lux,
his
I'm
name
gonna hit
origin
it
is.
fine.
I guess
Lux,
it's a surprise for me.
I'm gonna
Lux,
hit
did
it
you?
funny.
And
Stop talking.
I am gonna keep this.
I can mute him. I think I can just mute him.
No, that's fair. Okay, I'll start that over. But just because I don't know when he started talking. But yeah, H.P. Lovecraft wrote a bunch of famous horror books, and one of the gods in it is Nyarlathotep, pronunciation arguable, who is a trickster god. Essentially, the argument is that like Loki is that god. Like there's, if you kind of combine things, he is essentially Loki, but even more powerful. I always liked his aesthetic. He's one of the few Lovecraft gods that was aware of humanity and liked to fuck with them. So I loved that name for a long time. Every time I tried to take it, it was taken, of course, because famous reference. So I made it Nyarlathotep for a long time, and then I was like, this is like a nice bastardization that is my name. And then I played TFT. I played League. I was a one trick. I played like 100 games of Thresh a season. I was like, you know what? I like Thresh enough. You can edit your name with blue essence. Made my name Nyarlathresh, and it stuck ever since because it was good in Champion Select. If someone saw Thresh in your name, they weren't banning Thresh. So it was good from a logistical standpoint. I've waited for there to be a Thresh in TFT that I could main, but unfortunately, he's always been utility. Even when he was a 5 cost, he was utility.
I don't know, man. I've seen some Doran's cap Thresh just completely nuke a carry, man. I've seen it.
That's true. That's true. But unfortunately, I don't think I could play it to Masters. I'm good, but not that good. But yeah, that's what my name came from. And yeah, I'm always open to help people out on Twitter, my Twitch, or even the Discord. If you join and shoot me a message, I'm never going to ignore you.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time for coming on the show. I know you're pretty much part of the team, so. But thank you again for all your time, and I hope you have a great night. And thank you to everyone who's been listening.
Yeah,
Cool. Thanks,
thank
man.
you all. Even though I don't know what his name was.
You